live from the Hellmouth. It's the Popular Cinema Podcast. I'm your co-host, Payne.
I'm Bill.
And welcome to episode 36.
Hey.
How you doing, Bill?
I'm okay. How are you?
I am fine. I have something special for you today.
Oh boy. I really get nervous when you pull that shit out of your hat. So
Now, normally we do a little pregame, but today we're not really in the mood for pregame because we got other things to do, right?
well, yeah, we're not in tip-top shape. At least I'm not. So
You're not in tip-top shape. I'm in tip-top shape.
okay.
But are you ready for this?
Okay.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Are you not impressed?
Was that Red Fox?
What do you mean was that red box?
It said Red Fox. From Sanford
Red
and
box? Dun, 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 dun. You know what?
Wow.
Did you not appreciate that?
I appreciated that. I certainly did. I don't know why we're getting political on a movie show, but okay. Sure, why not? Throw it in there.
I'm not getting political. Today's MLK Day.
I know, I understand. I'm just saying, I'm glad to have my day off too.
So let me get this straight. If our podcast fell on 4th of July, I can't do fireworks at the beginning?
First of all, if our podcast fell on the 4th of July, we wouldn't be on this show. We don't do holidays. So
listen, PC
let's just
podcast
get that straight.
Equal opportunity station. I mean, if it falls on Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you want, Arbor Day, I think we should play something appropriate for the day.
Sure, we can record a show on those fake holidays, but on real holidays, we'll be relaxing and having barbecue like the rest of America. As long
Did
as
you
we're
just
clear.
call Hanukkah and Kwanzaa fake holidays?
Well, they're not real holidays to Americans. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. I'm just saying they're not holidays that I celebrate or that you celebrate. So therefore, they're not real for us. I mean, not that they're not real, but I knew this was going to be a day not to get out of bed, so I don't know why I did. But anyway.
Did you just see what I did there? Did you just hear the subtlety of that?
I don't think it was all that subtle, but I did hear it, yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Are you not going to ask me how I'm doing this?
Don't you have soundboard things over there?
I do. I have taken the effort since I've had an extra day off, like you, because we're both part of the. I don't know how to say it, but
Black People Holiday! Black People Holiday!
I have taken my time since we didn't record yesterday because you were indisposed. I've downloaded something called SoundPlant. Do you know what SoundPlant does?
Does it plant sounds?
It does. I now have a virtual keyboard in front of me that allows me to hotkey wave, whatever you want to call those, sound bites, MP3s.
Right.
I'm able to drag it to any key, so it's almost like I have a real studio over here in the East Wing,
Using
and I
your
can
keyboard?
hit. What's that?
Using your keyboard, like
Yes,
you can put it.
it's
Okay,
all
that's neat.
hotkeys. So I can add noises, I can bring in all sorts of things, and at any point in time, I just have to hit a button, and I immediately have access to it.
Look at that. Look who's been doing their homework. Yeah.
So, so when you start to drone on your reviews, I'll do this.
I think that's just an excuse for you to be able to push a lot of buttons. So
yes, it is. But the thing about it is, I was looking up sounds. Part of the problem is free sounds. It's hard to find free sounds.
It's hard to find free anything. So
I mean, I would like to have a few different things, but I have some special ones for you today. I mean, what actually is this? Oh no, no, that's my X-Men one. I'll wait for we do some X-Men news. I'll play that one. So
We have
you're
some
not
X-Men
really
news
that
in the show
impressed.
today.
What?
We have some X-Men news in the show today.
I know. Well, I'll have my hotkey pulled up. Are you not feeling the situation of how we're taking it to the next level?
What? Really?
Yeah, having hotkeys.
With the hotkeys? That's next level shit, huh? Okay.
This is what makes a podcast great, Bill, is having good hotkey sounds available.
I don't know if it makes it show great. I think it enhances the show. It's like when you find somebody to fall in love with. They can enhance your life, but they can't make you have a life if you don't already have one.
Oh, that sounds kind of deep right now.
Just saying. The hotkeys can help our show, but it really has to be all the way down to the content. And since I'm here, that's already taken care of.
Last I checked, you're no DJ Khaled over there. Okay, I don't know how you know. Oh, I got it
So.
because you did another podcast before you came to this one.
Oh,
You happened to moonlight it on a few times outside of that. But
actually once, but okay.
all right. So, any other news here? What do you got going on for the rest of the day?
I'm going to do the show, and then I'm going to probably watch some Star Wars and call it a day.
I just finished watching The Accountant with Ben Affleck.
Well, I hope it was better than Live by Night, but that's a story for later on.
I enjoyed it very much.
Good.
You would have been very upset with me because I had to watch it on my tablet.
Why?
My Roku devices, my PS4, they've got my sister's password in them.
Okay.
So for me there was like a free movie giveaway on Amazon, and so essentially I had to use my own Roku. It's a whole thing, and I didn't want to disconnect my Roku from my bedroom, so it was just easier if I just watched it on my tablet.
I don't understand. If you have all these things on your different devices that are hooked up to the TV, why couldn't you use the TV?
Because I would have to like sign out of my sister's or deregister the device, I believe, and then re-register. It's too much trouble.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I guess The Accountant isn't really. Anyway, I can't watch movies on tablets, so it's fine.
it's a very good movie. So I think we should probably get started. What do you think?
I think we should.
I appreciate you doing the script. So Marvel news.
That's really loud. Is there any way we can turn that down a notch?
You know what? You're like an old man today. You're old man. You're like walking around with a cane over there. You're just broken down.
I'm just saying. I wonder if the listeners are gonna want to hear their eardrums blasted off in between the actual news when we play our little news clips sounds. So
You know what? Rome wasn't built in a day. They'll adjust.
okay.
P.S. No more casseroles before podcast day.
We'll skip the reason why. So let's just get to the news.
You want me to hotkey that button one more time? You want me to hotkey it?
No, I'm good. So first bit of Marvel news coming out of this week. There's actually lots of little tidbits, so we should probably get going to get.
I'm not
through
sure what I've
everything.
done to offend you.
Peter Dinklage is in talks to join Avengers: Infinity War as an undisclosed character, rumored to be MODOK.
I'm not sure what I've done to offend you.
So, since I'm not
Do
a
you know
comic
who
reader,
that is? Did you know who
since
that
I'm not,
act-
since I'm no, I don't. Since I'm not a comic reader, and I am obviously caring a lot. So since I'm not a comic reader, I Googled MODOK to find out what this rumored character was supposed to be that he's supposed to be playing or rumored to play, because it's not official. This is just what's going on around the Twitter. Needless to
Okay.
say, I have some issues. I don't know if any
why you're such
listeners
a
are familiar.
hater. Why are you
I don't-
hating?
I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater. I love all the movies. I watch all the movies. I own all the movies. That disqualifies me as a hater. I even own Catwoman, so call me a hater again.
All right, continue.
So
You had to look up MODOK.
I had to look up MODOK, and the picture that popped up on Google. I mean, I guess if that's the character he's playing, then we automatically know why Peter Dinklage was cast. Because MODOK is a tiny little robot man with a ginormous head under a big glass helmet, and who has like these little tiny robot limbs. And like a diamond thing or some kind of, maybe it's an infinity stone in his head, I don't know. Anyway, as a non-comic reader, it looks ridiculous. It looks just ridiculous.
Now, MODOK, do you know, stands for Mobile Organism Designed Only for Computing.
No, actually, it would be only for killing.
I
Because
think there's
computing
there's
would be a
different
C.
there's different spellings of MODOK, actually.
Yes, MODOK is the one I came across.
Okay. So he
And
went
what-
through some sort of change. He became more evil.
Maybe. He certainly didn't go through a change to become more scary looking. Anyway,
All right.
I'm not down. And I hope that if this is the character he's playing, that they find a better way of translating it to the live action arena than the one that's
See,
been portrayed.
this is odd for me because normally, in terms of embracing your comic book roots, I would think you would be down for this. You want the bright colors. If the villains or the heroes are wearing long flowing capes and very ornate headwear, this would be right up your alley. I don't know why this, if it were to embrace the comic book roots, I don't know why you would be against such a thing.
First of all, when I'm talking about costumes, as we've many times discussed this in the past, I'm talking about A-list, top-tier, pop icon level characters, like Superman with the underwear on the outside that's been like that for 50 years, or Wonder Woman with the bright red bustier and the star-spangled panties, okay? Those are iconic images that have transcended comic book lore and gone through American pop culture to the point where kids in little villages in Africa can tell you what Wonder Woman looks like, okay? Let's not put MODOK in that category to start with. Secondly, it's different between having something that's transcended pop culture and been in your mental history for decades versus something that looks, not just sci-fi, but sci-fi in the extreme and not even human proportioned. I mean, all the characters I'm talking about are like at least human proportioned. It just, for a novice like me, it's jarring to see a man with a giant head and a tiny body in a robot costume. I don't know how to get around that for you, other than to tell you my first reaction to it was, even for me, who doesn't have a problem usually with the colors and the costumes, it's a step too far.
I'm happy to have Peter Dinklage coming into the world. I think he brings a sort of je ne sais quoi to the mix. And if it's MODOK, you know what? You already have, what's his name in the sky, Thanos floating in a chair in space.
Yes, and we know I'm not super thrilled with that either, because he looks like Barney the purple dinosaur in a gold outfit in a giant chair, but okay.
It's hilarious for me. When you tell me to sort of like open up my mind and everything else here, and I look at you and I go, some of the shows that you're watching on television, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like some of the acting just seems so unbelievable to me. But yet you sit there and swallow that like it's no problem. But then you draw the line when they come out with some sort of fantastical creature in a fantastical world. That's where you seem to have trouble accepting. It's amazing to me. Do you ever accept bad acting? Does that ever come into play?
I don't know why this has to be a character assassination on me.
It's not character assassination, but it seems as though you seem to accept a lot. I mean, you're already in a fantastical world. And half the time I have these arguments with you off the book. You sit there and tell me they can do whatever they want to do in the world. And so this is what they're doing. And I don't know why it's a problem for you, outside of the fact is you prefer all your heroes or villains to be in human form.
It's a problem because outside of the comic book, it looks silly to have a giant man with purple skin who looks like Barney the dinosaur floating in a gold chair. That you want to talk about taking you out of the world? Those are extreme images, and they're difficult to sort of wrap your head around when you're in translating it from a comic book to a real life action piece.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
I find that on MLK Day, it's tough for me to hear you discriminate against.
Giant purple creatures? Is that difficult for me to discriminate against on MLK Day? Little tiny robot men with giant heads.
You know what? Peter Dinklage and MODOK, come on down. You can sit at my table. Apparently not.
That's
at
fine.
theirs.
You know, if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were to do something like that, like a character that looked like MODOK, if you didn't know it was in the comic book, you would have a conniption fit based on how unrealistic or utterly ridiculous it looked. But because it comes from the comic book history that you have more of a history with than I do, you give it a pass.
All right. Well, actually, I just been ribbing you. I don't know. I would have to see how they created and how it's shown on the big screen. Part of it for me to accept sort of things is the world that it's in and how they, I don't know, how they make it. What does it really look out? Does it fit in the world that they make? I'm trying to think of an example of an old comic book movie where it just seemed kind of ridiculous. Nothing comes to mind at this point, but
Here's what's difficult for me to imagine. Like, okay, let's imagine for a moment we're watching an episode of Daredevil or Jessica Jones or Luke Cage or maybe Iron Fist. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. Okay. Luke Cage is walking around with his hoodie on with bullet holes in it. Jessica Jones is like walking around with her leather biker jacket. And Daredevil's walking around with his red costume. Okay, but they're still in Hell's Kitchen. Let's say Daredevil beats some gangsters up in an alley and turns around, and there goes Thanos standing there, floating there in his giant gold throne with his big giant purple head. And he's like, "So, you're the devil of Hell's Kitchen. I've heard a lot about you. Do you think that's going to work
that's not
in an
going
episode
to.
of Daredevil or an episode
not
of Jessica Jones or an episode of Luke Cage?"
But that will work in a Avengers movie.
But they're in the same universe. So I just don't see how those things can be congruent in the same world. It just feels, again, a step too far. If they're trying to make it all one universe, which is what they preach about all the time, I understand that. They can't be more connected than they are for many reasons. But it shouldn't be so far removed then, because in theory, you should be able to have the villain walk into any Marvel character and it should still fit. I don't see how MODOK is going to fit into an episode of Luke Cage when Misty's like, "Freeze!" And he's like, "Oh, I am MODOK. I freeze
Okay.
for no one."
TV and movies are very different. You're trying to act like they're the same, and they're not.
I'm not. I'm saying
They're
they're in the
different.
same
They're
universe.
different mediums, and it conveys differently depending on the medium that you're in. We all know in TV that's not going to fly, but it flies in the movie world. That's just the way it has to be. Unless somehow you're going to expand the TV world and like take an episode of like The Sopranos and make a movie out of it, then obviously it would be equal to that, but just on a bigger scale for only for 2 hours. But in these type of worlds here, there's a huge difference. I mean, if they wanted to put maybe a $50 million budget into, I don't know, Daredevil, you could probably somehow make it manageable that Thanos could show up in Hell's Kitchen.
Oh, stop. It's not about the budget level. It's not about how much money they could or could not spend on a Netflix show if Netflix decided to spend that kind of money on these Marvel shows. It's about tone, and it's about believability, and it's about making all the characters work at least together enough in the universe that it would not completely seem ridiculous for one element that's in one Marvel property to be in another Marvel property.
Okay.
And I just think that these visual extremes make it that much more difficult for me to believe that these things are all supposed to be taking place in the same universe. Not to mention the fact that the Marvel Netflix shows barely mention, I mean, they do mention, and that's about it, the Marvel movies as far as referencing the events that happen in them. But I'm just saying, we should probably move on to the next story. That is
Our
really
second-
loud. Really loud.
Our second news story is apparently Legion's going to be coming on the television soon.
Less than a month, I think it's 3 weeks from now, on the FX network. I'm not sure if that's one of your allowable networks to view a show.
February
But-
8th of 2017.
Right. So I guess it is set, obviously, in the Marvel X-Men movie verse, but it's not gonna have any crossovers or anything like that, which we're kind of used to from the Netflix Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it does look like an interesting take, a different take on a superhero show where, you know, it's going to be about the guy having sort of schizophrenia and having like these multiple personalities, but also having mutant powers. So that's kind of fresh.
How is that fresh?
Well, they haven't really done that. They haven't done a character that has multiple personalities or schizophrenia. I mean, you could say they did it with Gene Jones, but that was only one other personality. My understanding is that Legion-
It's fresh that we have a character with a mental illness. So that's fresh.
Okay.
Because we
Um,
tackle a character with mental illness. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you.
Okay.
I'm telling you it's fresh that they're having a character that has multiple mental problems.
I don't think that's what I would consider to be fresh. But what I would consider fresh is like a new writing, a new story direction, something other than an origin story, something out that we haven't seen before would be fresh. Just because you have a new character and he has a peg leg and we've never had a character with a peg leg before, I don't think that constitutes fresh. 'Cause I
Okay,
imagine
here
if
we go.
somehow wait, let me finish. If they were making Legion underwater, you would be like, well, most of our TV shows, they're on land in big cities, so it must be nice for them to be doing change of location, personalities does not make something fresh. You know what would be fresh? If they actually had one of the characters in one of these TV shows sit there and eviscerate other characters and kill them off like they're supposed to. Okay, that would be fresh. That would be something we've never seen before. That would be new. A mental illness character. That's almost like saying this is fresh because they're wearing a costume in the show. Finally, they didn't really wear costumes in this series, but now they're wearing costumes. I'm sorry. I'll let it go.
It's fresh to me. Next.
I'm looking forward to watching the show. Professor X's son, who obviously does have some sort of mental illness. He plays David Haller. I don't know if that's still the same character he's still playing.
It is the same character.
Okay. Supposed to be one of the most powerful mutants ever. Obviously led to one of the greatest X-Men stories for me. Create the Age of Apocalypse storyline. Oh, God. The Age of Apocalypse storyline in the comic books, I could go back and read that forever. It's almost like creative talent operating at its peak efficiency. Like everything just came up gold when they did that series, Age of Apocalypse. So the writer and the creator of this is what, Noah Hawley?
Right. Who does Fargo?
Yes,
Which I've
is
never
one
seen.
of my favorite shows. It's going to be heading into the 3rd season. So it took me a while to get on board, obviously, because I'm not a fan of these TV shows. It seems so much pedestrian and seems it's like going to Big Lots or something. Like, why would I go to Big Lots and maybe I should just head to Target? It just seems less than on its face. Because they can't. It's like you watching Agents of Shield. They're on a helicopter, but they only have two scientists, and only people that talk are like 4 or 5 people. But the organization consists of thousands of people, but we only see 4 or 5 making all the major decisions. It's just kind of like basic.
You watch every piece of crap that Marvel or that Netflix shits out onto disc, and you want to talk to me about not wanting to watch basic shit because it's on TV?
Yeah, 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 I do.
If
Either way,
Netflix took dog shit and compressed it into a disc and put a label on it that said new, you'd put it in the queue. And you want to talk to me about not wanting to see TV show that really?
listen. I'm looking. I'm going to give this a chance. It helps that it's only 8 episodes, so I'll give it 2 or 3 episodes. If it doesn't really, bring me in, I'm out. But I will give it 2 to 3. You know what? Actually, as a side note, you know what show I'm going to try on Amazon Prime?
The Tick?
No, Sneaky Pete. I think Bryan Cranston is the executive producer. What's his name? Genovese Ribisi or whatever else like that.
Giovanni
Like,
Ribisi?
yeah. You always say it in that tone. You say it in that tone of like.
I'm trying to decode J-Speak for who the hell you're talking about. And as I'm trying to piece it together, I go, he's kind of famous, probably in some. Yep, Giovanni Ribisi. Okay.
Giovanni Ribisi? Why does he get an American name? Whatever happened to
Maybe
Bob?
he's Italian or Greek or something.
Okay, listen. So thumbs up. For
So
Legion
why
for
why
you?
is this a show that you want to watch?
It just looked interesting. It looked very interesting. I think it's about some guy that's like a criminal. And then he comes back home. He's pretending to be somebody he met in prison and comes back home, and they apparently don't recognize him. So he kind of forms as like he tries to impersonate that person. And the plot line seems of interest to me. Um, but either way, thumbs up for you for Legion.
Yeah. And then other news this week about upcoming Marvel shows. It looks like Defenders. You obviously read the EW cover story that was out, and in there
Yeah.
they confirmed that Defenders is going to be a summer show. So it looks like we're probably going to get 3 Marvel Netflix shows this year, because then The Punisher is also supposed to be out at some point this year. So
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So it's
yeah,
gonna. What comes first then? How about you give me the breakdown? Which comes first?
Iron Fist in March, Defenders in the summer, which I expect to be probably around June, maybe as soon as Iron Fist is over or whatever, and then Punisher this fall.
So we've got 12 episodes of Iron Fist, followed that up by 8 episodes of the Defenders.
Well, 13 probably of Iron Fist, 8 of Defenders, and 13 of Punisher. Yeah,
Punisher. Okay.
they make the most interesting show the shortest one.
Do we know what villain Sigourney Weaver is playing?
It's all I know is that she's not from the comic. She's invented for the show.
Okay. I'll be curious. Be very curious. Does she have any superpowers?
I don't know.
Hmm.
The rumor is that this whole storyline with the Defenders is gonna tie into whatever the hell happened at the end of Daredevil with the hand and the big hole.
Okay.
So
Are our superheroes going to be able to use their superpowers, or are they going to be using their brain powers? Because that always makes for an interesting show.
well, if it's on Netflix, I wouldn't count on a whole lot of effects. So they had to spend all that money on Baz Luhrmann because he's still filming The Get Down.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's continue on with this Netflix love fest. So Mike Coulter was in the news, apparently.
He was on, I think, ESPN's First Take. I don't know. Do you watch that show?
I do, actually.
Did you
It's a
see this
sports
episode?
show. The sports show is a debate show. Here you go.
UPS ain't the only brown that delivers.
Really? Did you see this episode of Mike Coulter on the show First Take?
I did not. I really don't like to watch when they have like guest stars on there, like athletes or rappers or actors. I'm not a
Why?
fan of that because they're just coming on and giving their 2 cents. I'd rather actually they have the commentators that do the show giving their take on various sports things. It's just kind of useless. I don't really care what they think. You know, they ask them fluff questions of, "Do you think so and so is a good coach?" And then they go, "Well, I'm from the area where he coaches at, and I like him as a coach." That's about as deep as the analysis goes sometimes. And so they really are not trying to offend anybody because they're still trying to maintain a fan base. So I'm not really a fan of all guest stars. If I want to watch actors on guest shows, I'll turn on like Wendy Williams or something or Donnie
Wow.
Yen.
Okay, so anyway, Mike Coulter was asked by the show's hosts to explain the Luke Cage's decision to kill off Marshala Ali's Cornwell Cottonmouth Stokes character halfway through the season. Mike Coulter's response was, "The decision to do that was done before we started production. It's a lot of people that's involved in this. When you do it on paper, here's what it is. It's like running a play in football. You do it in practice, it works, looks good. In the game, it doesn't work, and all of a sudden, in retrospect, it seems stupid. Because what you have is all the series have a bad guy, and usually by the end of the season, people are going, well, we're tired of this bad guy, and we think the bad guy should have. We think the bad guy should have been. Wait. We're tired of this bad guy, and we think the bad guy should have been. We should have been able to resolve this in 10 episodes or in 8. So the theory we're going is, wow, you bring another baddie in. If the baddie is good and people are enthralled by this guy, now you reset the series in a sense, and now people are in another direction, and they don't know what's going to happen. You basically knock them on their heels. It's like running a trick play on the outside kick to start the second half.
I know
Okay.
why this. I know why this has made our show here because this is like a love fest for you now. Go ahead, start with your love fest of this whole with this comment of his.
I put it in there because I know that you felt this way about the second half of the season, and apparently other people felt this way about the second half of the season, and that I guess they were trying to break out of the formula of having the bad guy, have an arc for a whole season, but a lot of people didn't like that. So apparently, Mike Coulter was explaining that this was something that they, were trying as something different, and I guess some people didn't care for it.
I don't think I fault them for trying something different, but it's. I don't know why they couldn't have kept Cottonmouth and maybe just killed off Diamondback. But I get what I get what he's trying to say. I just feel like it was a FUBAR play.
Well, it's particularly FUBAR when you think of now the fact that Marshala Ali, even though really his big break was Luke Cage, now he's probably going to get nominated for an Oscar award. I think he was nominated for a Golden Globe. He's kind of like a hot property right now, and so they look smart having him in their series right before his big break hits, and then they go and kill him off, and so they sort of maybe wasted that opportunity to have a real up and coming hot actor be in their show by, cutting that story short. So.
Is Luke Cage really his big break? He was in House of Cards. You're aware of that, right?
Right, but Luke Cage, if you look up the ratings, has higher ratings than House of Cards.
But you know what? You're going to have to send me that in an email because I don't believe that. But that's
Okay.
fine.
It's the most watched Netflix show in the history of the network.
Ooh, okay. That's a strong statement then. Damn.
Of all any other Netflix shows.
Congratulations to Luke Cage. All right.
So, anyway,
What do
that's
you think of that? What did you think of? Well, what did you think of his comment then?
Like I said, I think it was a missed opportunity on some levels for them because, they had a real big hot property actor, and I would have liked to have seen them explore the relationship between Cottonmouth and Alfred Woodard's character more.
See, this is the thing.
I liked what's his name, Diamondback, but there's no denying that he didn't have the same kind of multiple layered character that Cottonmouth had, and also didn't have the same connections to their big bad that they're sort of nurturing through the whole season. In Alfred Woodard's character. So
Yeah, it actually is very cool if they would have pulled it off. It's one of those things like, wow, I didn't see that coming. I thought this guy was going to be a villain. You know, it falls in the same type of formula. The villain gets defeated at the 12th episode, the 13th episode. We got it. But it was a nice twist to actually, you know, I think we were all sitting there when he got killed and go like, is he really dead? You know, wow. And it's kind of like you can do that, but the replacement has to be strong. Now I know you liked Alfred Woodard's character. You love her. I just feel it's a misstep in that if you're going to do that, you got to have somebody equally strong. And I know we disagree on this, but I think he would have been a better character to keep around than Cottonmouth. And it's
I don't
kind of
disagree on that. I don't disagree on that. And I think, you do have a point when you say, I wish they would have switched positions with Diamondback and Cottonmouth. They could have started with Diamondback and then dispatched with Diamondback halfway through the season and then built Cottonmouth up through the rest of the season and then had him and Mariah team up for season 2, which, they sort of had a team up at the beginning of this season and then, they killed him off. So that kind of really didn't really go as far as it might have gone. I do agree with that.
So what's in your opinion when they start doing these shows here? It's almost kind of like, you're thinking you're putting your best foot forward and you're hoping that the people I mean it's different for a Netflix show because all the episodes are released. Is there some sort of difference like when you only release an episode a week and all of a sudden you can see what's generated out there in the social media and the writers and they're just like, "Oh, I love Cottonmouth. He's such a great character." And all of a sudden the people are like, you know what? We were planning on killing him off by the 8th episode. Maybe we need to do a little switcheroo. That's not really possible in these type of shows.
I don't know
then,
if it's really
obviously.
possible or not. I think that there's not enough I think they film so far in advance that by the time it airs, they've already gone way through the whole season. So I don't know if there's a way. I don't think that really happens a lot in television, except for maybe in between season breaks where they have a time to regroup and start over based on what they've had the previous season. I don't know if
Okay.
that's really possible, but it's this was the first season of this show. I think they were sort of getting their bearings. I think they will take lessons learned possibly from the feedback they got from this. Although there's too late to bring back Cottonmouth, maybe they'll do something to enrich the layers of the character that they do have, like Diamondback. So
Okay. So apparently in the
maybe there won't be
DC,
any more fights with frying pans on people's heads. Maybe.
you ever see the movie Precious?
No.
Wow.
Does she have a frying pan on her head?
Yeah, what's her name? Isn't it Monique? Monique was rolling around with the frying pan, like smacking everybody around.
Oh, really? Okay, no, yeah. Monique, her mom.
Precious, better get in there, fix my food.
Wow.
All right, in DC news, let's move along. Let's keep it moving. We're going to be getting a Green Lantern movie.
Oh, we had a Green Lantern movie. Now we're getting the Green Lantern Corps.
No,
movie.
a real Green Lantern movie.
Wow. So it looks
That's why
like
we're doing a redo because apparently the first one was not met well. So we have to do a redo.
ironically, they're doing a redo with the same person who did the first one that wasn't met well. So I don't know what that's about, but okay.
Same person.
Jeff Johns wrote the Green Lantern script, and now he's in charge of all the DC properties. So,
That's fine. Can't you learn from your mistakes? I mean, this is an opportunity, unless you don't think it was a mistake. I mean,
I personally don't feel like it was a mistake. I feel like it maybe came out at the wrong time. I feel like they use that movie as the most Marvel. I think it's the most Marvel-like movie in the DC verse, and my understanding from what I've heard so far about
saying if it's going to be Marvel-like, that would have guaranteed it a success. Is that
well,
what
it
you're
works
saying?
for Marvel.
If it comes out now, you think that would guarantee success?
I think if it came out now, it would probably be closer to what people are used to with the Marvel universe, and therefore it would be more successful. Yes, I do. So anyway, Green Lantern Corps is being fast-tracked with Hal Jordan and John Stewart as co-leads. Co-written by David Goyer, who did a lot of stuff in the DCU. He did BVS. He wrote Man of Steel, and he wrote the Dark Knight trilogy, the Christopher Nolan trilogy. It's described as being a lethal weapon in space type flick. Remember, we talked about this probably a year ago, maybe now, in which, we're talking about how Marvel changes up their game. In the phase one, it was like the intro movies was the big focus. Phase two, it was more of like everybody gets their individual flavor on a little bit more when they take the Winter Soldier and put it into like an espionage 70s thriller type thing. And then in phase three, they really appear to be doing these team up movies where, Thor's going to be together with Hulk, Ant-Man's going to be with Wasp. That's kind of like a theme that they're going. Spider-Man's going to be with Iron Man. And so I think in this way, I mean, BVS was a little less of a team up and more of an adversarial thing. But instead of doing another Green Lantern origin story, which we just had, they're doing a team up, which I think is a different take on trying to get that property afloat. So I do applaud that they're doing something outside of the ordinary origin story, which people are starting to get a little tired of. So
You really do find the silver lining in everything, don't you?
no, I find the silver lining and stuff I, look forward to.
So you're looking at this because they sat there and they made a decision that we're not going to be doing an origin story because people are getting tired of it. That's what you think.
Well, it's because they've already done that particular origin as well.
Haven't we done the
And-
Spider-Man origin like 2 or 3 times now?
Yeah, this will be the this is an origin story. So the
And
last
didn't
one
we
would
do
have
the
been
Batman and Batman BVS? Didn't we have a little bit of the Batman origin?
the tiny
I mean,
bit,
it was a little,
not
It
much.
was like 5 minutes though, but we still threw it in there.
Right.
Okay.
And I think they should probably do some kind of similar thing with this movie, but that's not the focus of the whole movie.
Let me backtrack a little bit here. I don't want to be adversarial myself here, but let me backtrack based on your comment. You talk about the people being sheep and lemmings. Do you think it's wise for DC to be a lemming to Marvel? To sit there and have their general business meeting and be like, whatever Marvel's doing, we need to do. Do you think that's a good company policy for them out in the world to go, whatever they do, we need to follow in their tracks?
I think the good
that any other competing company should be trying to get ahead of the curve and beat them to the punch, as opposed to follow on their tracks and enjoy their sloppy seconds. Does that make sense to you?
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay.
For a second,
So-
I want to finish about Green Lantern.
Okay, so when you have a public property that costs this level of money, it's probably within your best interest to listen to people who are giving you feedback and telling you this isn't working for us. What you're doing is not working for us on a massive scale. We missed this, we missed that. It's just like a TV show listening to their fans that say, we don't like your show and here's why. And going back and retooling the show to try to make people like the show more. It's like when you get a laundry detergent and all of a sudden the sales drop out of the floor and no one's buying your product anymore, and you do a test or some kind of review of it and it turns out that the laundry detergent makes people's skin itch. Are you just going to put the same shit back out there and hope for the best, or are you going to tweak the formula and come out with new and improved laundry detergent that makes people feel better?
There's a difference for a product, obviously, such as a detergent. But in terms of something being very creative of what you're doing, you're putting out something that's very creative, very artistic, very subjective. And to sit there and try to get your finger on the pulse of this, it's almost trying to catch a chicken.
Is it? Because George Lucas put out the prequels and ended up selling the company because of so much bad reaction that he got from it. Disney releases a movie that is similar to what George Lucas originally put out, and everybody goes apeshit. It's the most money-making movie of the year. Disney didn't reinvent Star Wars with The Force Awakens. They didn't break out of the Star Wars. What they did was embrace what people liked about it and made the most money ever.
There are
I think
certain
that's what DC's trying to
products.
do.
Star Wars is a certain product. You can pull out Star Wars to sit there and prove a point, but Star Wars is an entity unto itself. What you're doing is you're trying to do other movies and bring them to the forefront. And so you're trying to take superhero films of people and throw them out there, and you're trying to make the most money available. They are not Star Wars. They don't have some sort of pedigree outside of being in the comic books. And so while you're sitting there trying to go, how do we do this? I feel as though instead of sitting there trying to go, well, Marvel's doing it this way, we need to follow their method. It's just a matter of time before all of a sudden the people turn on Marvel and sit there and go, these movies aren't doing it for us. You've got to sit there and get ahead of the curve on this. It's so mind-boggling to me. Once again, we don't need to go down this rabbit hole, but it just reeks of desperation when you're sitting there going, they're kind of moving this way towards to be more Marvel-like, and they've taken the commentaries from their fans, and this is what they're trying to do. It's just they're trying so fucking hard to please the people, and the people are never going to be happy with it because they're just going to move on to the next thing. As soon as they do this and go, hey, we did this, they're going to be like, well, we want this over here now. You know what? This is what we kind of want, and you're just going to be left holding the bag. It's really one of those. It's an artistic thing. It's not detergent, because if you tell me that there's too much sawdust in there, you just take it out. Problem solved. As soon as you take out one thing in the movie, it's not still going to guarantee you a hit. I mean, we had this discussion with Hidden Figures and Ben Affleck's movie. You can sit there and go, we did this. Ben Affleck seems to be doing well from BVS. His star is rising more. This movie should obviously do well, and then it does it. You're like, I thought that people would go see this. Okay, the logic. It seems like you keep banging your head against the wall. You keep banging. Now I can't fault you for sitting there going that maybe we need to try to do something different, but their different seems to be more just copying. They're not trying to kind of like, well, let's tackle it from a different way and maybe we'll lessen this. It's we need to become more Marvel-like because this is not working. Us staying in this area over here. It's the pendulum seems to swing so far. But I'm starting to do what you do. I'm starting to go on a rant. I'm sorry.
Well, I disagree about whether it's desperate or not. I don't think it's desperate. I think it's smart business. I think it's um, savvy of them to tweak the formula that hasn't worked for them on one level and try to include things that other people have said that they want to include to please more people. Whether
Now,
it works or not is not really their problem. Trying to fix what's brought was what some people consider to be broken is the challenge. And by addressing that, I think that they can only do what they can do. And if people don't follow them for that, then they weren't going to follow them anyway. So what harm does it do for them to try?
well, the harm is they don't make any money and the whole universe folds again.
Well, they
That's the
weren't going to
harm.
make any money anyway. So,
The whole idea behind the Green Lantern Corps, I love because John Stewart, Black Green Lantern, very cool. And in fact, I think he's probably the more. I think for a younger generation, I think their Green Lantern is John Stewart. Hal Jordan is like you can put it in terms of James Bond sense. I mean, I was raised up on Roger Moore. Um, and I remember getting an argument with this guy in school that he thought Sean Connery was the best Bond. And I was like, no, Roger Moore. But I was raised on Roger Moore. John Stewart seems to be the hot Green Lantern that comes out with all the little animated DC movies.
right.
Hal Jordan is what we grew up with, reading the comic books. And I think it's kind of cool that they're going to put them both in the movie. Where my trepidation comes into play is where when you say Lethal Weapon, I'm looking this up. Lethal Weapon came out in 1987. It cost
Okay.
$15 million to make by Richard Donner and grossed over $120 million. Actually got an Academy Award nomination for Best Sound. Anyway, we all know Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. I enjoy Lethal Weapon. Did you enjoy Lethal Weapon? Did you see it?
I did see it. It's not something I own or that I feel like I need to watch again,
Sure.
but I wouldn't say it's a bad film.
Yeah, okay. Lethal Weapon, when it's action comedy, at least according to Wikipedia. I guess my concern is, and my reaction is that I always get kind of queasy when they start trying to throw comedy in there. Because when I look at Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, there was chemistry. There was a lot of chemistry between those two actors that somehow elevated everything. And it wasn't a one-off joke. There were the humor came from their interactions and reactions to one another. It was very natural, very fluid, very easy. Now, when they start talking about stuff like this, I get queasy because I'm assuming that they're going to be writing jokes. We're going to turn this into Rush Hour with Jackie Chan and what's his face? I can't remember his name. Chris Tucker, where it's just kind of like skit after skit after skit. And it's kind of like I would hope for Green Lantern Corps they find two guys that actually have chemistry naturally versus we need to write jokes in every scene and wink at one another. That's my concern.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on. Oh, this is going to be very contentious.
Why?
Bill,
Yes.
Fox News, you put in here in the notes that the movie Deadpool, the highest R-rated movie of all time, correct?
Yes.
Was nominated for a Golden Globe.
Right.
And apparently, as a result of this, there's rumblings under there that it might be gaining steam for Oscar nomination.
Wow. That was dramatic. Actually, it was the Producers Guild nomination that sort of tipped it over the edge to now sort of legitimize its Oscar prospects. But people are starting to mumble about Best Picture Oscar nominations for Deadpool.
Okay. You
I
want me to
mean,
go first?
You can go first. I can go first. I just
I
don't
think we're
know
going to
what to
probably
say.
agree. You have the floor. I'm assuming we're going to be on the same page with this. You make a
Well,
little
we're
bit.
not exactly on the same page because I think that if, gun to your head, you would probably have to say, I would probably have to say that you probably appreciated Deadpool on levels that I did not. I don't hate Deadpool. I don't think it's horrible. I own it. It's not going to be the first movie I go to grab to watch as a superhero film. I had a lot of issues with Deadpool. And as far as whether I think it's Oscar material, my answer would be an emphatic no. So yeah, I don't think this is something that really needs to happen or even should happen or even be spoken about happening. So
All right. I like to just sit there and say, I agree with everything you just said.
I mean,
I find it to be appalling. I find it to be completely outrageous, not even in the realm of sanity, that a movie like Deadpool would be nominated for Oscar. It just seems so ridiculous. And it would be you know what? This represents where we're at right now in this world in 2017. We got,
how so?
it's just topsy turvy. It's just absolutely fucking crazy. Okay. Now, and I guess I base this on what I think. And maybe it's changing for everybody. The whole world is changing. You got Twitter, social media, everybody's commentary, a critic on stuff. And so Oscars was the only game in town back in the day. Now you've got a million different award shows out there. I feel it's all watered down. But for me, the Oscars always represented some sort of like the highest in terms of artistic design of how you did something. It's sort of like the numbers and the zeros, the work put behind it. Um, Something that's outside over the norm, something that pushes the envelope a little bit, something that's extraordinary. Okay, when I go to get a cupcake from Walmart and I sit there and I go enjoy, I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. But when I get a cupcake made by like the top chef or something else like that, I feel there's a difference. Now, that's always very subjective. Deadpool just doesn't hit any of those points. I mean, you can give the movie for like best sound or best costumes. I don't give a fuck for Oscars, but overall for best picture, I mean, it's almost like when Deadpool walks up onto the stage and you're sitting next to Schindler's List and The Godfather and the rest of the movies, and he's just like, hey, it's Deadpool. It's almost like the redheaded stepchild. I mean, really? It's inconceivable. Maybe that should be my hotkey. Inconceivable. I don't know. I know this hasn't happened. I know we're speculating, but it's just shocking to me. It's just absolutely shocking to me if it were to happen. If it were to happen, I feel like this would be the death knell of the Oscars. It would be the rapture for it to even be considered outside of the MTV generation.
The Oscar nominations come out next Thursday, so we will find out then whether this is going to be an issue for us or not. But the Oscars have the capability now, and they haven't again used this, but they can nominate up to 10 films in the picture category. And like we talked about before, the idea is for them to get
Transformers movies now. That's what it starts doing. That's what it's.
The idea was for them to expand the Best Picture category beyond the normal staid and true kind of drama pictures that have been classically considered to be Oscar
so
material
you're telling
movies.
me it's affirmative action for Oscars that we need to start pulling in other movies outside of the standard true, whatever you just said?
Well, if it's affirmative action that they can do with getting black people nominations, I don't see why they shouldn't do affirmative action with broadening the category.
Yes. Is that what you think? You think that's appropriate for
no, I mean, I don't personally have an issue.
We don't get enough superhero movies because our superhero movies are very popular, so they should be nominated. They should be getting the stage up there. Really? If your shit was tight, it should be nominated, but it's not tight.
I think, the Oscars are in danger of becoming irrelevant to current movie audiences, which is why they added the additional 5 pictures to be eligible in there, because they weren't nominating pictures really that most people have seen in any given year. And now, again, they haven't always taken advantage of that, and some of the movies they've nominated.
You think selling out is going to help them in the long run then?
I think broadening what they consider to be Oscar nomination material as far as Best Picture goes doesn't hurt them for relevancy. No, I don't. Now, we can agree that Deadpool isn't the one they should be nominating, but... Say what?
Go ahead.
I'm just saying we can agree that Deadpool isn't the one they should be nominating, but I get the idea and the whole genesis of the thing.
But the problem is, it's not so much you're trying to stay relevant, but what you're doing is you're selling out what I would consider to be some sort of like, I don't want to say code because I know it's very subjective at times here, but it seems like you're selling out what the Oscars should be about, just so you can pull in a few more fans who, by the way, if they're only tuning in because you've nominated Deadpool, I don't know what that really says about you anyway. I mean, if you
says their ratings are going to be higher and they're going to get the Oscar show to air on ABC again for the next 20 years. That's what it says.
Why don't you become the MTV Music Awards? So when the person's up there in the nominations, when they're getting their Best Picture, we have La La Land, Moonlight, Deadpool, Fast and the Furious, Xander Cage and Jason Statham's new movie, I'm Just Kicking Ass with My Bald Head. See who the winner is. I mean, oh my. Really? It just seems to make it very less than anymore.
I, you know,
And
I
you're
get
talking
frustrated.
about staying relevant when you're talking about like this, when you're telling me like to get an Oscar nomination is such an honor. Do you not think that honor lessens when you're nominating shit like Deadpool, let's say in the future, Fast and the Furious or whatever have you? Do you not think that somehow has some sort
If
of
I
effect?
agree with the nomination choice and it's a movie that I fell in love with personally, then no, I'm not going to feel like it was a problem for them to nominate, let's say, The Force Awakens for Best Picture, or Rogue One, or Captain America: Civil War,
See, this is
which
see, this is the difference between you and I here. I can sit there and I can love lots of movies, and I told you my number one movie for last year was Warcraft. But I can tell you right now, it is my number one movie, but it's no fucking Oscar winner. Okay, it's not an Oscar film. All right, I can see the difference. Still my number one movie. Would I like to have it get some? I would have liked to have the movie make a lot more money in America so I could get my Warcraft too. But I'm not going to sit here and cut any, sit there and try to sell smoke up your ass that somehow Warcraft is an Oscar film with ogres running around and some sort of half-ass plot in there. I just enjoyed the shit out of it, but it's not an Oscar film.
maybe
I don't
what
know
you're
why.
considering to be an Oscar film
Well,
changing.
that's how I set it up. I told you it's my opinion, but I think there's a lot of people that can sit there and differentiate between watching the Fast and Furious and sitting there walking away going, "I love the Fast and Furious," and not only that, I love the next Cars movie coming out. But they still sit there and have the common sense to go, "I just don't know what I would consider this to be the Oscar, the best of the best in terms of acting, direction, and plot." Okay, I don't know if it goes down to just based on I like it. Is that the
Well,
Oscars now? I
the
like it,
Oscars, the
and
Oscars
people
aren't. The Oscars are voted upon by Academy members who work in the field of the category that they're voting in. For Best Picture, anybody who's a voting member of the Academy gets their say. So they can put in whatever title they want when they vote. If the Academy voters decide that Deadpool or The Force Awakens or Rogue One or Warcraft meet the challenge of what they consider to be Best Picture, then it's going to get nominated. And maybe that's changing. I don't know. I'm not a voting Academy member. So all I can say is that that's who gets to vote, is the people who are in the Academy. So
Mhm.
once they have spoken, I guess there's really nothing left for us to do except to either watch the Oscars that year or ignore them. And I've ignored them for the last several years. And I would like to be able to watch the Oscars and actually have some investment, or even maybe have even seen some of the movies that are up for the awards. Not because they were up for awards that I've seen them, but
All right.
because I was
So
going to see them anyway,
how
and
come
they
you're
have.
not watching the MTV Awards then? They nominate all the movies that you enjoyed watching last year.
I don't really watch MTV at all because I think it's the
Well,
Kardashian
what I'm
network.
saying
So
is, if all it takes for you to have it some sort of like shows that you
I can tell
like
you
to
what
be
I would
nominated
watch.
for something, I don't know
If
why you're not watching the MTV Music
I would
Awards.
watch the Saturn Awards if they aired it, but they don't. So I don't really have that choice.
Okay. Well, the Saturn Awards, how come you won't watch the MTV Awards? Why don't you watch
Because
any award show that nominates
MTV
good
Awards,
movies?
if I'm not mistaken, are voted on by viewers of MTV. There we go. That's probably
What?
why.
I can vote for it.
I don't watch MTV, so I don't think you can vote for the MTV Music Awards though. I don't know how that works, but or the movie awards. I
Well,
don't think they're
my point of the matter, Bill, is that they seem to be nominating shows that you watch every year. So
okay.
is that really all it takes for you to watch the show? And that somehow makes the award legitimate is because the people are
I
watching it?
don't consider the MTV Movie
I
Awards
mean, they
legitimate.
have to. It's a popularity contest here now in terms of you don't watch the Oscars because they don't put in the movies that you watch every year. Because you don't go see Manchester in the Sea or The Light Between the Oceans, so therefore you don't watch it. So therefore, it's not legitimate that they're giving out awards. But until they start nominating movies that are very popular, then they're just going to be losing fans. So we have to chase you.
Well, they don't have to chase
because
me. I'm
you
not
don't
in their
want to watch
demographic
what we
anyway.
consider to be high artist. What?
They don't chase me. I'm not in the demographic anyway. But for their demographic, yeah, I get why they're changing. Why they changed it. It was at least 10 years ago now. Why they added 5
This
movies into the category.
these are sellouts. Sellouts. I think you need to streamline the fat then. I think you need to start maybe instead of being on ABC, put it on like I don't know, some other side channel.
Yeah. Do you know how much the Oscars cost to produce as a show every year? You think CW can afford that?
Yeah. Well, I think they're losing more by selling out potentially than they're gaining.
But if they nominate
I think
Deadpool and it turns
I think
out that
I think in
Deadpool,
the long run they're losing. They may be winning this year when they sit there and go, we nominated, let's just say, I know we're speculating, that we nominated Deadpool, okay? And all of a sudden the show comes on and they sit there and be like, oh, we got a bump in viewership because we nominated Deadpool and so and so. It's great. We're up by like 20 points. It's wonderful. We have to keep doing it. I think in the end, that will be a negative sum for them at some point in time. It's going to come back to bite them. They're going to lose out a lot more in the future. But whatever.
in what? Cachet? In some kind of
Cachet?
respectability quotient?
Oh yeah. And I'm not talking about viewership because you can always sit there and nominate whatever. We're nominating Baywatch just so we can have The Rock and Zac Efron show up in the audience and give awards. Yes. People want to see the beautiful people on stage. You can do that. It's fine. But in terms of what you just said there, the cachet, the respectability, the award, what it stands for, that's all going to lessen.
And
And
if
so
no one watches it
when you start
and
saying
no one
Oscar,
talks about it anyway, and it's not relatable to the people, because 90% of the American population hasn't seen the 5 movies that are nominated every year, you don't think that's going to hurt them? Because they become less and less paid any attention to because no one's heard of any of the
so,
shit
so you're
that they
assuming
nominate.
that the Oscars have always been relatable to people. Then is that what you're telling me? The assumption is then the
I'm
Oscars has
saying it's been
always
more
been
relatable
relatable
to
to people.
people. I'm saying it's been more relatable to people in the past than it is lately, yes. Because, for one thing, there's been less to do. So people saw movies more frequently.
Okay. Okay. So I'm kind of confused a little bit that you think it's wait, it was
Well, we need to
relatable
move
back
on
in
from
the
this,
day?
but
We're,
the
we're, we're
issue,
gonna move on. It's our show. It's our show. You're saying it's more relatable. It was more relatable in the past than it was now. It is now.
yes, I would say for me in my lifetime, yes. I can't speak outside my life, but the last time I really gave a shit about the Oscars was when they nominated Return of the King. Before then, it was when Titanic won. There was a good 10-year period in there where I felt like I was actually invested in the Oscars and the nominations of movies they made. Maybe not
Okay.
10,
What
maybe
year was
5.
Titanic? What time was what
97.
year was Titanic? 97. As good as it gets, The Full Monty, Goodwill Hunting, and L.A. Confidential. 1988, Shakespeare in Love, Elizabeth, Life is Beautiful, Saving Private Ryan, The Thin Red Line.
Saving Private Ryan was a massive hit.
Okay. 1999, I'm not going to keep going on. American Beauty, The Cider House Rules, The Green Mile, The Insider, The Sixth Sense.
Lots of massive hits.
Okay. So you're telling me that somehow it's become less as time has gone on?
Yes. Yes.
Do you mean like in 2009, The Hurt Locker, Avatar, The Blind Side, District 9, An Education, Inglorious Bastards, Precious, A Serious Man, Up, and Up in the Air?
Lots of big
That, that,
hits.
that doesn't seem to be not relatable.
That was 8 years ago.
Okay, well, let's go 2013. 12 Years a Slave, American Hustle, Captain Phillips, Dallas Buyers Club, Gravity, Her, Nebraska, Philomena, and The Wolf of Wall Street.
There's maybe two that were popular films in that list.
You're referring to Gravity and The Wolf of Wall Street?
That's right.
Okay.
Out of
Captain
8
Phillips
nominations?
was popular. American Hustle was popular.
I wouldn't call them blockbusters.
Okay. I think when you're saying blockbuster, you're somehow kind of kicking them in the ribs for not having made $300 million. But the budget for American Hustle was $40 million. It pulled in $251 million. Captain
Oh, you're-
Phillips pulled in $218 million. I think what I would argue with you is that you're not interested in seeing these movies, but they're still popular with the sheep and the masses.
I would not call them popular on the level that Gravity or what was the other one?
Wolf of Wall Street?
Right, were popular.
Making $200 million is not popular?
No, it's not. Not in this day and age.
So we're going to move on. But I guess what are you saying then? If they're not nominating movies that make over $500 million, it's not really relevant anymore?
I'm saying it's becoming less and less relevant. The more you nominate movies that most people haven't seen, the less relatable to most people it becomes.
When did you care about what the people think anyway? Who cares?
Okay, I
Who
can
cares?
see that you're trying to needle me, and I'm not
I'm
going
not trying to needle you, but I just don't get it. I just don't get it. We're going to move on. I just don't get it sometimes. Who cares? I mean, it's an award show. They're not sitting. It's not a popularity contest, and I don't know why we keep it like it is.
It is a popularity contest to ABC, who pays for the rights to air the Oscars, and the advertisers who pay to advertise on the Oscars. And if no one's watching your Oscar show, they're not going to pay as much money to buy the show.
My last question, I promise. My last question then. Then why do you care if your shows do or do not get nominated by the Oscars when you know that their only reason why they're getting up there is because ABC wants ratings and they just want people to watch? Now, I would assume that you would want your show to be nominated for what you see it as to be a great movie. And you want people to recognize it for it and to get the cachet from the Oscars. But if you understand that the Oscars is nothing but just some sort of just popularity contest by ABC, then doesn't that seem to make it less for you? That why would you even want the award? It's like a participation trophy.
No, that's not. No, because there is a such thing as a Vergence, where you can nominate deserving films that also speak to a wide range of people. Two birds with one stone.
I'm moving on.
Okay.
All right. Second X-Men series is coming to Fox.
Possibly.
The Hellfire Club.
No, that's canceled. That never happened. Legion obviously is around the corner. This series is written by Matt Nix of Burn Notice. I don't know if you ever watched that show. I think it was a USA Network show.
Yeah,
Deadline.
We're talking about Runaways. Are we talking about Runaways?
No. This is a different show. This is a show that focuses on two ordinary parents who discover their children possess mutant powers. Forced to go on the run from a hostile government, the family joins up with an underground network of mutants and must fight to survive. So it's not Runaways, it's not Cloak and Dagger, it's none of those. It's set in the X-Men movie universe, I think more so than Legion. But again, crossovers are probably going to be limited, if at all. But it's now got a pilot order at Fox. Before, we talked about this before, it was sort of rumored to be in development. Now Fox has actually ordered the pilot, which is the same thing, as basically greenlighting at least one episode of the show. and then they'll show that to the network, and if the network likes it, they'll order a series based on that pilot. That's how pilots usually work. So
This seems like sort of like a ripoff of the Runaways show we were talking about not too long ago.
I don't know. Was
Essentially,
Runaways?
your kids have powers, but I think with Runaways, kids have power, then they kind of run away, and they hook up with other people with powers and try to survive. This is
Are
essentially
they children of villains though, or something like that?
Yeah, I think you're right. There you go.
Okay.
But outside of that little point, you're still taking people going, we have powers, and then we're leaving our situation, whether villain or hero, and hooking up with other mutants and trying to survive. Same sort of idea here. Our
Well,
kids have mutant powers, government's chasing us, we're leaving, we're running away, and we're hooking up with mutants. I like the idea of it, but I'm just saying, I make an observation. It seems like a little bit of a spin-off of Runaways.
right. But if
Changing
Fox
it a
has
little
already
bit.
greenlit the pilot, this is more than I've heard about Runaways getting a pilot yet. So this will be first to hit the airwaves before Runaways does. So it looks like Fox trying to get the jump on that idea, which makes sense because it's the studio where X-Men is already placed anyway. So I'm gonna wait and see how my reaction to Legion is. I'm probably like 50-50 on Legion. I don't know. Sometimes when these, if we want to call them auteur television people, get a hold of things, they feel like they want to make it so artsy that it might get too far away from the general idea of what it's supposed to be for me. I've never seen Fargo, so I don't know anything about Noah Hawley. All I know is he's really in the press talking about how it's going to be so different from a superhero show. For me, that's not always the way to
Well,
approach
that's
a
not
superhero
necessarily
show.
a positive, so okay.
So, but
I don't
like I
know.
said, I'm going to withhold judgment on that until I see how Legion goes, and then what comes about with this second X-Men pilot.
It's kind of funny when they sit there and go, it's going to be so different from a superhero show, and I'm sitting here going like, I actually kind of want a superhero show. Can I have Legion sit there and use his powers and wreck shop? Is that possible? It's almost like somehow we're, what is it? I hate to have to use like a sex reference. It's like somebody that's kind of like, like rubbing your back or something, and you're trying to get their hand down by your penis, but they're rubbing every other place except where they should be rubbing. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Well, no.
Okay.
What
I
I'm
apologize to all
saying
the
is,
parents.
it's almost like you have a superhero, and instead of doing a show where they're actually using their powers and being super heroic, you're like, I'm just gonna focus on their regular life where they're just at home, like doing homework and shit. You're like, it defeats the whole fucking purpose. Oh my god.
Part of it is budgetary for that reason, and part of it is because they want to appeal to more than just the hardcore, sweaty comic book goers. So the idea for Luke Cage, the idea for the Netflix shows, which have paid off for them. I mean, we can say is that I don't disagree with you that I would want to see a TV show that has a full embrace of the powers on demonstration and a budget to match. But the reality is, I'd rather have Luke Cage in a gray hoodie than have no Luke Cage.
I get your point. I'm not worried about budgetary constraints because you can take some show like Heroes and sit there and do some camera tricks. I'm not saying you can't do it, but I don't know this whole advertisement of we're not, it's going to be different. Oh, you're acting
Part
like
of it is at least
you're acting like we've been so inundated on television with superhero shows that it's time for something different.
well, there's
have yet
four.
to
There's
see.
four on the CW. There's one on Fox.
I don't.
There's about to be another one on Fox.
What? You call those the shows? You call
Those are the superhero shows that
are those
people.
shows really?
They are. I mean, I don't watch them and I don't care for them, but that doesn't mean clearly a show like Arrow, who's going on to season 6, and The Flash, which is on season 3, and Legends of Tomorrow, which has just been renewed for a second season or a third season, and Supergirl, which has also just been renewed for a third season. Clearly, these shows have audiences that the CW is reaching. That doesn't mean
How many seasons of Smallville did you get through?
2, but it ran for 10.
I know.
So it was speaking to somebody.
Listen, I don't care about those some other people. This is PCP over here, okay? Let's just keep it real. Those shows are garbage, okay? We know it. You know it. You're not watching them. Even you, who watch all that other crap, you're not watching them.
All I'm saying is because I'm not the one that they reached doesn't mean that's not financially viable for them to continue making superhero shows, and for Noah Hawley or whoever's running the next version or next iteration of a superhero show to take a look at what's out there and say we want to maybe try something other. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, I like Fargo, so he'll get a chance, but I just don't know if I'd throw my 2 cents. I wouldn't run from it because it's not as though somehow you're gaining the benefit of trying to be in a world where you think is attracting people. What I'm saying is superheroes seem to be popular, correct? So you want to sit there and go, by the way, we have a superhero show, it's Legion. He's part of the X-Men world, which by the way makes hundreds of millions of dollars. You know the X-Men, so he's part of the X-Men world. But we're going to do something a little bit different though. So you want to sit there and you want to be under the umbrella, but you don't want to fully embrace it by trying to sit there and say we'll be something different. It's just kind of those. Just say it's fucking under the X-Men umbrella, and this guy has superpowers and he's mentally ill. Just do it. I don't know why we're running away, always running away with people not wanting to use their powers. They
I
keep
don't
trying to write
disagree.
War and Peace. They keep trying to write War and Peace. And if you want to write War and Peace, write War and Peace. It's not called War and Peace. It's X-Men. Uh, it's really frustrating. I'm hoping that Legion won't be, but I'm just saying this concept is frustrating to me. Which I know we'll talk at the end of the show about Guardians. It's really where it should be headed instead of like not right there. It's almost like improper foreplay. That's what's going on right now. Improper foreplay.
I hope the little kiddies have their thesauruses out so they can look up what that means.
You know what improper foreplay is.
Dictionaries,
That
whatever.
that's like some person coming over to you back in the day when you were doing all your nefarious shit, and they're like, hey, Bill, you know what? I'm digging what you got. And their opening move is like sticking their finger in your ear and kind of like twirling it around or something. And they're like, is that turning you on? And you're like,
Are we done with the sexual
not so much.
innuendo on this family friendly, although extreme language using podcast?
What? I said finger in the ear.
It's still sexual innuendo.
Okay. My point of the matter.
Okay,
is,
Grandpa Perv, can we move on?
what have you been worried about the kiddos?
I'm just saying, I mean, we're getting a little bit into like, this is a little bit explicit for some people.
It's like episode 3 where you were dropping Netflix and chill while my nephew was listening. Huh?
I honestly thought it meant something other than what it meant. I thought that was interesting.
Get an Urban Dictionary for Christmas. All right, we're moving on to Star Wars news. What?
Do we have a little sound for that?
You know what? It was kind of hard to find. Oh, I'm sorry.
Wow. Is that all we got? Well, that's better than nothing, I guess. We'll go with the Chewbacca. I thought maybe we could get a little theme song tune or something.
Disney's very tight. I still, you know what? I just really got the soundboard up and running, so I kind of have to.
Can you add sounds to it that you find other places?
Yes. Yeah. If
Oh,
you
okay.
send me some waves,
Okay.
maybe put them in the Dropbox, and I can just drag them over and put them on the hotkeys.
Can I send you a better wave for the news sound? Because that one we've got is really not hitting it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, technically, I only have several. I have our cash registers. I have Chewbacca. I have the crowd booing. I have the screaming. I've got a audio supplies. I got the standard slap in the face. And
How do I get these? So that when you go, wow. So when you go off on your little tangents, I can just slap you back into reality. Can I get this down? Yes. That's my favorite. I like that one so far.
I don't know how. How do you? Technically, can you play something on your end through your computer that it picks up the sound? Have you tried that?
Well, What is the soundboard that you got? What's it called?
It's called SoundPlant, but
Where'd you get it
I don't.
from?
That's SoundPlant, probably.com, but I don't think that's the issue. I mean, if you were to go to YouTube right now and play something, I don't think I would hear it.
Well, then how do you hear it? How do I hear it?
Well, I would have to explain it to you later, but I might require
Okay.
you to download some other thing and change your settings. And I know your system is set up the way you have it, so I would hate to have to mess around with things.
All right, we'll worry about this later. Okay, so Star Wars news. There was a couple of items that came across the Twitterverse this week. One of them involving the Han Solo standalone picture. Woody Harrelson officially signed on to play the mentor character for the young Han Solo, as played by Alden Ehrenreich. Um, I applaud this casting. I think he's quirky enough that he will fit into the Star Wars universe quite well, and adds sort of an interesting layer. And he's no spring chicken anymore, Woody Harrelson either. So I am interested in seeing it's sort of like maybe a Star Lord and Yondo thing, chemistry going on, like from Guardians of the Galaxy. Maybe they'll have. So I like that.
Oh, okay. You know what? It's Woody Harrelson's coming a long way from Cheers. Um,
We all got to start
truly.
somewhere.
Well, no, I mean that's great. That just shows you he's had a wide arc. I mean, he's going to be coming up in the War of what? War for the Planet of the Apes.
Right.
Um, he's getting a Star Wars role. I mean, it's good for him. I don't got anything bad to say about Woody Harrelson. So I'm just kind of curious. Once again, I'm don't have a problem with the people that they bring on into the shows. I'm more concerned about the direction and the plot of the story and how it's really going to play out. That's where my concerns always lie. Woody Harrelson is a good actor. It's just a matter of what they give him to do and how they set up the story. That's the problem for me. So,
Well, for me, I cannot say enough about how, again, impressed I am with the Disney era Star Wars stuff. Um, Outside of the animated show, which I have my issues with, Rebels, the live action stuff that they're doing has just blown it out of every expectation I really had for them. So I have complete faith in whatever they're going to do as far as the next movie goes, as far as Han Solo goes, as far as whatever spin offs they do. They clearly are putting a lot of care and love into these movies, more so than I think any than I ever really expected. So I really have at this point 100% faith in whatever they do. So
I think you somehow think Kathleen Kennedy is listening to this show and like you're like vying for a job. Because every
I'm
time I
really
sit
not.
there and say I have great concerns, you want to come in there and be like, "Listen, Kathleen, I don't share Payne's feelings. I think everything is going swimmingly, and I have nothing but trust."
Well, I mean, that's my
Ugh,
feeling. Now, no one's
yeah,
trouncing on your feeling. You're allowed to have all the doubts or trepidations you want to have. But I personally feel strongly that they've given me anything so far that I hoped for. So
I hope they give me another Death Star in this one. That's what I hope.
that's cute. Um, okay, so the big news for Star Wars this week, then, outside of Woody Harrelson joining Han Solo, is the rumors about the CGI Princess Leia in Episode 9. And that's been all over the interwebs, all over the Twitter, to the point that Lucasfilm actually issued, which Lucasfilm never does, which they say in the press statement that they never do usually respond to these types of rumors or speculations. But in this case, they came out and published a formal reply to the rumor that says, "We normally do not respond to fan or press speculation, but there's a rumor circulating that we would like to address. We want to assure our fans that Lucasfilm has no plans to digitally recreate Carrie Fisher's performance as Princess or General Leia Organa. Carrie Fisher was, is, and always will be a part of the Lucasfilm family. She was our princess, our general, and more importantly, our friend. We are still hurting from her loss. We cherish her memory and legacy as Princess Leia, and will always strive to honor everything she gave to Star Wars. I think that some people probably feel good about that.
You're
As
not
a
one of
fan, I listen. It's a difficult thing for them to try to balance and manage. They had big plans rumored to supposedly for Carrie Fisher's arc in episode 9, and now all of that's going to have to change. there's there's only so many things they can do. They can either write her out off screen, which is not the outcome I would want after investing in her character again for these next two or this next movie and in episode 7. They can hire an actress who looks like Carrie Fisher, which is not satisfactory, or they can CG her, which is really, for me, it doesn't disrespect her legacy. I don't think it disrespected the legacy of Peter Cushing when they digitally created him for Rogue One. I heard that Carrie Fisher loved the young version of her that they used at the end of Rogue One. I think if done properly, they can do it in a way that will actually pay, and obviously, there were some issues with the CG in Rogue One as far as it not looking quite perfectly lifelike to me. But by the time episode 9 comes out, technology will have advanced that much further and they'll be that much closer to making it look even more realistic. I suppose maybe there's outtakes or something that they can use from the other two movies. I just want the story to be as close to what they wanted to do with her before they had to change their plans because she died. That's all I want. I want her to have a fitting closing to her chapter as a character, and doing whatever they can do to her off screen is not really what I want to see.
Okay,
So
well, how do you think this is going to play out then?
I don't know. Right now, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, right now they already
I-
have her in camp for episode 8. Now, if they don't plan on digitally recreating her for episode 9, does that mean they have enough already in like the film stock to do what they need to in episode 9, or do they actually just have to write her out on episode 9?
I don't know. Like I said, neither one of those is really the optimum for me. And if we're going with the most close to what we would have gotten before she died, to me it seems like they could only CG her. I don't know how else they could do it.
I don't know why you dance around this. It's almost like closed mouths don't get fed. What do you want? Do you
I want them to
CGI
CG her. Obviously, that's what I want, but I don't think they're going to do it because so many people got uproar and got upset about the fact that they would. But to me, that's the best way to do it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So you don't think it dishonors her memory?
Not at all.
I don't care
I don't
about
think
Peter. Peter Cushing has been dead for how long?
20 years.
Yeah, okay. The state could use the cash. Okay, spare me the nonsense. It's been 20 years. Carrie Fisher just died, okay, in the past month over here. So you're kind of talking about people going, we're just going to sit there and go, you know what? We can just digitally recreate her. Emotions are kind of high. It just doesn't seem to be appropriate.
Okay, so maybe they say right now, we're not going to do that route. We'll revisit this in the future. The movie's not going to be out for another. We've got episode 8 this year, then there's going to be another 2 years. It's not going to be out till 2019. That might be long enough for people to say, okay, we're ready for a digital Carrie Fisher now. I hope that's what they end up doing. I really do. I don't see any other way for them to do it.
I think you have to kind of play it in terms of the person has just died. The mother of Carrie Fisher has died. Debbie Reynolds has also died. All together, all very close by. And then you want to sit there and talk about what about the next movie? Well, we'll just digitally recreate her. It just seems kind of insensitive, and that apparently we really don't need her anyway. We can just sit there.
I don't think that that's what it seems like. I mean, obviously, if the woman was alive and they were able to work, they would not think of doing this. But because she's passed on, and yet the character is stuck in some kind of limbo storyline-wise.
Yeah, but you don't skip a beat though. Yeah, she's passed on, and we can just sit there and go fire up the 110 computer, the Whopper computer downstairs. Let's just fire it up and just start mapping it out. No
And
problem.
maybe, like I said, maybe now is not the time for that. And which the only hope I'm putting onto this is where they say, we have no plans. That doesn't say we won't ever have any plans. It just says currently we have no plans. So I hope that they do change their mind or revisit this in the future because I think it would be a fitting homage to Carrie Fisher for them to continue on the character arc of Leia after her passing to complete her story. So I hope we get a chance to see it.
Yeah, I don't know where I fall along the line on this. I guess in order to complete the story, I'm not opposed to it. But part of it is I don't want to be taken out of the movie seat by sitting there going like, "Oh, that's just a digital recreation. It seems a little bit stiff. It seems a little artificial." Um, I need it to kind of work for my mind because I don't need to, you know, I need to sit for
So what's going to work better for you? If they come in and they go, episode 8's complete, whatever scene she's done in that, we've seen her in episode 7, that's complete, whatever. Episode 9, here comes Rey. She's sitting crying at a table over the Millennium Falcon. Chewie comes up and puts his hand on her back, and she goes, "I can't believe they just blew up the planet Tatooine with General Leia on it." That's not going to pull you out of the movie? After she's been in the movie 7, she's been in the movie 8, and all of a sudden they're just going to say, "Well, Leia's dead." Oh, okay. That, to me, is worse.
it seems awkward, and it seems like one of those things that it's screaming for. Is there going to be some sort of additional content Blu-ray coming out that puts in that missing scene?
Yeah, yeah, it seems.
That's what it screams out. But listen, I don't think I'm opposed to it, but I can see why at this point you would say that. It seems insensitive.
Which is fine. I just need them to give me a little bit of wiggle room, which, if you read it, in a certain way, where they say we have no plans, doesn't say we won't
You
ever.
know what? You're just cold blooded because you're just like this. I need to finish the story. That's what you are. People are crying, they're upset. And you're just like,
I'm
I
upset.
need to finish the story. So
I'm
let's just sit
upset.
there and start napping.
But, I mean, the thing about it is, the story goes on. That's life for you, Jay. Life goes on. Nobody wants people that they love to die, but the world keeps spinning. My mother wouldn't want me to curl up in a ball and sit in a corner since
Right,
she died 10 years ago.
right, right. We want Disney to keep making that money and for you to have your complete disc of the Carrie Fisher Princess Leia arc. It's not complete without that. So yeah, that's what needs to happen here, huh?
I'm just saying, I think it would. I think if done properly, the CGing doesn't have to be her walking around like in close up. Maybe they could just have her, sitting behind a table or something, and then, she's giving a speech or something, and then it blows up like Batman versus Superman. Whatever. I just want there to be something of her on screen after episode 8.
All right, so let's take some bets early on. We're going to take a January 2017 bet. Do you think they will come off of the CGI policy for episode 9?
I cross my fingers that they will.
Okay. I'm thinking they will also. Unless they have some other footage that they can use from her that they film that they can somehow splice and work in. I mean, I don't know how that works or how much of that stuff they have in stock, but well, these things happen.
Right.
All right. Well, let's move on. Do you want to discuss Guardians, the superhero movie from Russia?
This is in trailer talk we're talking about because this is really the only trailer I think I've seen since last we met.
From Russia with love, baby.
It looks fun to me. I think it looks really good. But I don't know if it's going to get a release in the U.S. I doubt it. Even if it's direct to DVD, I'm not one for subtitle reading, so I hope they dub it.
Oh God, dubbing's even the worst.
It's got to be better than reading subtitles, Jay. I can't
Fuck
read and watch a movie
no.
at the same time. I don't think my brain is big enough for that.
Dubbing, they don't get some sort of like Meryl Streep to dub. They get like you and me to dub. The people are like, "I'm here, Commander. What can I help?" That's what the dubbing sounds like. Oh my God.
I don't think it
Gotta
always
read
sounds
it.
like that. Have you ever seen like they did it in Das Boot? The dubbing wasn't terrible.
Oh my God. I don't do dubbing, Bill. Dubbing's
Well,
out.
I don't do subtitles, so I think we're at a
Reading?
50-50 split here.
You read Twitter, you read the internet, but you just can't read on the TV screen.
I
mean,
can't
what?
read and watch a movie at the same time. No, it's difficult for me.
What are you looking at? Are you looking at your cocktail? What do you mean?
I find it to be it removes me from the immersion in the film. I find it to be distracting me away from what's happening on the action in the film. So I would prefer it, especially with an action movie like this. It's different if you're going to sit down and watch some kind of two-person character drama, and basically all they're doing is sitting across from each other talking, than it is for like a huge action spectacle. For you to be trying to follow the action and read the movie seems like a bit much for me.
All right, so let's say Guardians, the film from Russia, okay? It costs $5 million to make.
5 million rubies or rubles.
It's actually 330 million rubles.
Okay.
It costs $5 million. And by the way, it looks fucking fantastic for $5 million.
Well,
All right.
look, I think some of the CG is a little wonky,
Right.
but you know what? I can forgive that.
It's $5 million. Okay, I mean, they're
It
putting
didn't really cost
$250
$5 million, right? You're just making that up.
I'm not making it up.
It only cost
No.
$5 million.
Listen, I don't know. Maybe they have one of those slave camps over there, the gulags in Russia. Maybe they just get free labor or something. I don't fucking know. I mean, that's what the information on the internet. I mean, 50% of what you read. Maybe it's 10. It says 5 million, 330 million rubles. My point of the matter is, they probably got some sort of like. It stars Sebastian Sizik, Sanzar Madiva, Antoine Papazuzzi, Alina Linia. Have you heard of these people?
No.
Okay. All right. So when it comes over to the U.S., do you think we're going to get Brad Pitt, Ben Affleck, Will Smith to do the dubbing?
No, but there's a lot of, there's voiceover work is kind of big, and there's a lot of qualified actors who just do voiceover work, and I think that, it doesn't have to be awful. It could be okay.
When's the last time you saw a dubbed movie? Because
Well, I watch a Star Wars cartoon every week that does dubbing, so
what do you
because,
mean?
they're all animated characters, so they have to dub.
Oh God. Oh no, 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 no. Okay, that's not dubbing.
Okay.
That is not dubbing. What's going to
It's
come over
voiceover
here
work.
is they're going to get Bob Smith over here to fill in for Sebastian Sizek. And they're going to be like, okay. And it's going to be stilted. Now, this is a product of you watching soap operas, which, by the way, when I was fixing
That's
my
what you
lunch
always go back to. That's your go-to insult for me.
well, I don't want to say it's an insult, but it makes sense why you wouldn't have a problem with this. Dubbing is like it's like the kryptonite of any type of movie watching. And
Well, I'm not going to go buy a Rosetta Stone and learn Russian to go see this movie. So what choice do I have?
You can read it.
It's not really for me.
You need the actors. You need Sebastian Sizek's voice himself. You need to hear his Russian voice going, Strovanov. You need to hear that. You don't need to hear somebody go,
Why do you sound
"Good
like your
evening."
Russian accent sounds like the dwarf on Twin Peaks?
Okay, because what they're going to do is they're going to be like this. Good evening, comrades. Welcome to our installation. We have now created superpowers. That's what they all sound like when they're dubbed.
Do you watch a
It's
lot of
just
dub? Do you watch a lot of dubbed movies?
You know what? I've tried to put W on sometimes because I was like, you know what? I just don't know if I want to just read right
Read the
now.
movie. Right.
And then I put it on, and then instantly I have to turn it off because the voiceover acting is so horrible. It's horrible. And that's what I realized that more times than not, when I'm listening to the voiceover acting, it's overinflected, it's very stilted. And I don't think they're sitting there trying to do some sort of like $5 million crossover voiceover budget. They're just like, well, let's just do it on the cheap we can. Let's just go out there and get a few people to come in here and read these lines. I mean, it's $5 million movie. Well, how much more are you going to put into it?
Right.
Anyway, we're digress. The movie looks a lot of fun for me. And I imagine that this plot is going to be fucking ridiculous. It's going to probably be shitty. And it's going to be some sort of step down. But what the trailer does get right for me is it seems like it's, to use your words for like Gotham, it's just batshit crazy. Guys are turning into giant creatures, rolling around with bringing up stones like he's the thing. Girl is disappearing. They're big giant grizzly. This is what I need the Americans to embrace. Outside of vodka, they need to embrace this whole love of the superpowers and the people being cool and doing cool fucking shit. It seems like we're stuck in this like bougie world where our superheroes have to sit and convey emotion and sit down and think about the world we live in and volunteering their time at a homeless shelter. Can we just have them do their things that they were their God-given abilities? Is that
They did
what
do
is
that. It's called Guardians of the Galaxy.
okay? I need them to do that on an expansive scale.
Okay.
Expansive scale. Embrace it. So you enjoyed the trailer though.
I did. I will actually go and buy this movie, sight unseen, and stick it in my DVD player.
All right. This movie is released on February 23rd of 2017. I
In
imagine
Russia, which means it'll hit Blu-ray over here on April 1st, I'm sure. So,
that won't take too long. It won't
no,
take
I doubt
too
it.
long. All right. I mean, these characters are just so cool. The guy can transfer into a werebear. The other guy is skilled with blades and martial arts. Anyway, let's move
So, are
on.
you going to put it in the Netflix queue then? I assume.
Oh fuck yeah! Oh
Because we're
hell
not
yeah!
we're not going to go and look and see if it. I highly doubt it'll even play at art houses, to be honest with you. So,
You know, I don't know if I'd actually go see it at an art house, but um, I'll be happy enough to put it in my queue. It just looks a lot of fun. Anyway,
we'll revisit this when it comes out.
all right, that sounds like a plan. I don't know about the cinema de review.
Why?
I mean, I've watched some movies of late here. Storks, Blair Witch, Sully, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children.
Right?
I probably dogged that movie on this show once or twice, probably when it came out.
I
Said Tim
recall.
Burton was nothing but a hack,
Right?
but the movie was a lot of fun.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, when are you gonna watch it?
I don't know. I have to be in the mood. It hasn't struck me.
Okay. Did you watch any new movies this weekend?
I did not watch any new movies. I finished watching missing episodes that I sort of skipped over of my Star Wars cartoon because, now I have to go back and watch them all because God only knows when they're ever going to be relevant again because they seem to like to go back and pull out shit from these shows to put in the movies now. So just when I was going to give it up, I have to get sucked back in. So I
How
had
are
like
those
5
two
episodes.
then?
They were okay. I mean, I'm still not jumping up and down with like how wonderful the show is, but I guess they're all connected, so
This is like you with my comic books. You used to sit there and go, if the shit's not good, why don't you just like stop watching and then come back? And I'm like, Bill, I have to keep collecting because they're all part of the long running series. So you're doing what I used to do for my comic books, what you used to laugh at
Right.
me
What I
about.
don't do
You're
is
doing.
put them in plastic bags and put them in a box to save them for a rainy
Oh,
day.
okay, all right. So
But
that's how that's how you're still gonna differentiate, huh? You're gonna still put me down
right.
at some sort of lower tier. Huh? Okay, all right.
No, what I do is, I try to avoid it until they go, if you like this Rogue One movie, you've got to watch Saw Gerrera in his appearance in a double episode of The Rebels show. How am I supposed to ignore that? So,
All right. It's time for it. See, it's so much easier now that I have this soundboard. All I got to do is go like this.
cool.
That's it. I just got to hit a button. I just gotta
Before we
hit-
go on to cinema to review, can we just really quickly sort of, did you look at the Justice League photograph that came out about like last week sometime that has Batman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman standing like in like a foggy background? Did
Yeah,
you
I
see that
looked at it
photo?
at a distance.
Yeah, I'm not impressed with that photo. I'm really not impressed with that photo at all. So,
Why are you not impressed by it?
um, Wonder Woman looks bored or sleepy, or I don't know. Maybe Gal Gadot was pregnant in this photograph. She just doesn't look like she's like ready to kick your ass. She's just kind of standing there looking boring. And I think her posture is like all wrong. So it kind of throws off the photograph for me. Like when I look at the photo, I'm supposed to get excited, and I'm not. I just go,
So
oh.
is this sort of like when they released that photo of Aquaman and it looked like his one nipple was deflated?
Yes,
And you were
it's
like,
very similar to that.
"What?
Or
Why would they release this photo if it looks like this?" Is this
right, or
another
when
one
they
of
released the
those?
Batman photo that people made memes of, where he's like Batman was depressed and standing in the rain and pushing the baby on the swing.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
that was.
I don't know why they. I mean, I just don't understand it. If you're a studio that can release a million pictures from any second of any part of this movie that's surely going to be action packed, why would you release a photograph with 5 characters standing in a row like they're in a lineup for a fucking police department? It just doesn't scream like exciting when you release a photo that looks like this. I just don't understand the logic behind it. If the logic is
Well,
supposed to be getting people pumped up, I don't know how anybody's supposed to get pumped up for this with this photograph.
let me see here. I think I'm trying to pull it up.
Cough doesn't sound so good.
Oh, did you hear that?
Yeah, what the hell was that?
I'm sorry. That was me trying to find the photo. I've got to go to my images. So anyway, the photo's not doing it for you. You're just like,
Yeah. Yes. And I just don't understand the logic. I mean, they could have released a picture of Wonder Woman, holding her sword out, or Batman getting ready to throw a boomerang, or something that looks like something with some action in it. And this is the photo they release?
Oh, this is the photo where it looks like it's almost like a gas chamber. There's smoke and fog.
Right. Batman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman. Zoom in
I'm
on
looking
Wonder
at
Woman's
the
face.
photo now. Her face looks like a mannequin face.
Yes.
It looks like a fake face. Like it's almost like it's the wax museum down there.
Yeah, it just this photograph just doesn't do anything for me. And I'm a big cheerleader of them. I want them to succeed. I want these movies to blow people's minds away. But when
Are
you
these-
release shit like this, it's difficult to get excited.
It looks like a toy. It looks like it's like they're in an aquarium of some sort.
I think they're on that ship, whatever that the ship that holds the whole team is called, Batman's ship or whatever.
Uh-huh. The photo's terrible, Bill.
Yeah, it's a terrible photo.
I
Anyway.
imagine this is what's that? You know what this looks like? I would say when you go to like Kmart and you try to pick up their toys and you pick them up and it looks like one of the eyes off center and you're just like, what is this crap? Like this is who makes this? It looks terrible. But then you get it from Hot Toys and then you see what it's supposed to look like. I feel as though like whoever put this photograph out just didn't give a shit.
Right. And-
Like this is I don't give a
But Zack Snyder has it. Like I said, they've
Photo.
never marketed these movies properly, in my opinion. I mean, all the way back to when they released that very first picture of Henry Cavill as the Man of Steel, when he was in that bank vault. You know, he had smashed like the bank vault door or whatever. They're always desaturated. They just always look off. And the movies themselves have worked for me on many levels, but their marketing campaign and at least the posters and stuff for Wonder Woman look better. The Squad posters were good, but the BVS posters and the Batman or Man of Steel stuff, marketing stuff, just all sucks ass. It just all sucks ass.
You know, it's real tough for us because I have to agree with you that when I look at the photo, this is why I didn't click on it the first time because I saw it and I just kind of moved on. I yawned. I was like,
Right,
this is just not a good photo. This doesn't scream like kick ass.
right.
It screams like, please click somewhere else. This is nothing to see here. Nothing, you know.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't understand why they released this like non spectacular, non dynamic looking material.
Okay.
If this is
Well,
all you've got, then just don't release anything until you're ready to release something of some excitement.
the thing about it is, you should have a ton of good shots to release. It shouldn't be
Sure.
difficult to call something together. And if you do, I mean, listen, it doesn't take us, you know, with our cameras and you take photos. I know you and Chris, you understand what a good photo is for you. I
Right.
mean, if you're sitting there going, I'm not looking right in this photo, you don't release it. Okay. You know, you bring in your professional photographer, you take 100 photos and you pick out the best 10. It seems as though this concept is not hard. And if that's really the best photo, the one that you're really ready to release to the world, then I feel like they're working like who's that lady from Daredevil? The Asian lady that was working, had all the blind people working for her. That's what I feel
Wow.
like.
The
This is what I
Chinese
feel.
lady, yeah. Yeah, I can't remember her
Um,
name. Madame Gao.
yes, yes. Um, that's exactly what's going on there. Can we move on to box office receipts?
Yes, we can.
All right. For the weekend of January 13th to 15th. Fuck, Bill, we got to go to work tomorrow.
I don't know why you had to put that in here, but yeah, thanks for reminding me.
Damn it! You know what? I should probably have Chipotle tonight because I think I deserve it.
I wouldn't disagree.
All right, the number one movie, drumroll, Hidden Figures. Fox Studio brought in another 20 million.
This is all very surprising to me. But you know, I don't know anything about the movie. I did not foresee this movie being this successful, and I guess I'm glad it is, but I didn't see this coming. I really predicted box office disaster for this, so it's good to see that people can embrace um, a movie starring three middle-aged black actresses, because I think that was something that was not assured before this happened.
I didn't say Hidden Fences. You know, we've had this texting thing yesterday on this, and my point was, am I surprised that Hidden Figures is doing well? My response is yes. But I feel as though, did you understand where I was going when I was texting you?
Not exactly, but okay.
I think it's easier anymore to predict these things to be like not hits. And the surprise is when they're hits. Like Hidden Figures, okay, blah, blah, blah. Live by Night by Ben Affleck, blah, blah, blah. Alex, okay, all right. Sleepless, all right. Fences, all right. Silence, Manchester by the Sea. Like, you can't sit there and tell me that these movies are going to bring in $150 million. Okay? I'm not shocked when they sit there and they do some sort of middling results and they bring in 20 million or just 30 million. That's not a shock to me. Manchester by the Sea only made 15 million or Moonlight only made 10. It's not a shock. Okay, what's a shock is when these movies that look like they're just going to cater to some sort of niche audience, then they pull in the money. Okay, because it seems where the money is being made is by some sort of animated Pixar film or some Fast and the Furious or superhero film. These movies are the ones, the Star Wars movies are expected to make big money. You can't tell me that Hidden Figures coming out is expected to make big money. They're green lighting it, but there's no under the I don't think anybody's under the impression that Hidden Figures is going to make $150 million. Okay? So when it does, I don't know why it's kind of like, "Oh god, it's making money." That is shocking. But if it fails, we're always going to sit there and go, "Well, yeah, Hidden Figures, three black women sitting there working for NASA doing some sort of math problems, helping out. Shit's boring. Nobody wants to go see a spectacle. I can watch a whole bunch of other shit on Netflix." That's my point. The movies is really becoming more, which you're treating it as such, blockbuster filmmaking. It's giant cinema. Because otherwise, I can watch any old thing on my Netflix, Hulu, Prime, or whatever have you, Crackle, at home. It's got to be something I need to see on the big screen. Fences is not something I need to go see on the big screen. Okay? Unless I got nothing but time, I don't need to go see Fences. I'll wait for it on video. But maybe I might want to see Gravity on the big screen. That's my point. Like, it's great that it did well, but if it didn't do well, we'd be sitting here going, that's not a shock. What's a shock is when you sit there and have Transformers 5 come out and it only makes $10 million. That's the shock.
No,
the
you're
movie's been
missing
making
you're
almost
missing
200
my you're missing my point.
All right,
My
what's your
point is taking a movie that stars three black actresses is a risk. It was a risk for the studio, it was a risk for the actresses who took the parts.
Is
It
it
was a
really
risk for everybody involved. It is because the thought
if the movie costs
because the
$20
thought
million,
process, it's a risk because the thought process is a movie starring three middle-aged black actresses is quite possibly box office poison, because we know unless it has Tyler Perry above the title, black people usually don't go out to see black movies. We know, based on the financial disappointment of many other black actress starring vehicles, that most people don't go out to see a movie starring black actresses in the leads. So the thought of the studio is, we're going to lose our shirts by making this movie, but we're going to do it anyway because we can't have everything be a blockbuster. And so then when the message gets sent to the studio that a movie with three middle-aged black actresses can be successful, that changes the thought process that goes into whether you can do a movie with three middle-aged black actresses or even one middle-aged black actress in the future in a starring role. It changes the whole, it's a game changer. Hidden Figures is a game changer.
I disagree.
Well, I disagree with your disagreement.
The movie cost $20 million. When you want to sit there and tell me about risk, they're not making $100 million movies. This is when you talk about the whole minimization of making the movie. You sit there and go, they shit out $20 million to make these movies because that seems to be the going price. Unless you're operating on the most shoestring of budgets, which would be Blumhouse of $5 million, these movies at this level, these type of movies that are not blockbusters seem to cost 20 to 25 million. You can't tell me you're sitting there going, that's a huge risk for them, because they're making them at a pop for 20, 25 million. A huge risk is sitting there putting $100 million into the movie. And then you sit there and go, oh, we lost our shirt. But 20 million, I'm looking at the list of movies that cost 20 million to make. There's a ton of them. They're not the blockbusters.
It's not that. It's that if you make a movie that costs $20 million and no one goes to see it, that's still $20 million that you're out.
Oh,
And the bigger lesson that you learn from that is that audiences aren't interested in seeing any movie at any budget level starring a black actress in the lead or a trio of black actresses in the lead. And so if something that you spend a little bit of money on makes a lot of money starring people that you thought weren't bankable, then you consider those people for bigger parts in the next bigger budget movie that you make, because you find that some people found them acceptable in the lower budget, and so maybe it appeals to a wider range. So therefore it changes. The biggest issue for me with this movie is that it changes people's perception of what you can do or who you can put in the lead of a movie, period. Because before, this was considered a no-no. And now because it's making some money, it's going to be considered more legitimate in bigger budget level movies in
So
the
what's the
future.
change when Blumhouse makes a horror movie called Ouija 3 for 5 million and makes 50 million? What's the game changer for that now?
It's not a game changer because it's just the game changer is that you can make money on something that doesn't cost a lot of money. Well, that's been done since Blair Witch and probably way before that. Found footage is a whole genre of movies that make money off of things that don't cost any money. But the idea of taking a category of actor who you consider to be not bankable and putting them in something that becomes bankable opens up the floodgates for other people to do the same on a higher budget level and be considered legitimate.
I disagree with you. And
That's
so what
fine.
happens? What happens when the next movie comes out and they try this again? Let's just say they do Steel Magnolias, but instead of Steel Magnolias, they do, I don't know, Compton Magnolias. Okay. And when that comes
Okay.
out and it makes 10 cents, what are you going to tell me then? What are you going to tell me then?
I'm gonna tell you then
Oh,
that
you're
hopefully
no. What you're going to sit there and tell me is, well, it was April. That was a slow movie going year, and it just didn't hit. But it doesn't mean, you take something and then you sit there and you prop it up like this is a game changer. Then when the next movie comes out and fails, where do you run to then with it?
then you say hopefully there's enough successes based on this particular actors combination or actor combination that they've learned a lesson that they can
So there
appeal, which
wasn't
was something
movies
that
before
was
Hidden
never in
Figures then.
consideration before, was never even considered because they've looked at the numbers and said this is something that we're writing off as something that we can't make any money on. Now they've reconsidered and said, well, maybe we can, and maybe the next one won't make any money, but that won't stop them because they see it's out there somewhere. They just have to hit it the right way.
Do you know how many movies that are made that you don't see? They're out there for 20 million. What do you think they're doing out there then? What's the logic behind it? They're not sitting there going, oh shit, we've got this huge category of, let's just see, middle-aged black women. You know what? We hit on this. This is wonderful. I thought for my 20 million, this wasn't going to do well. They're up to 54 million. So this is great. We can expand this whole genre right here. You think that's what they're trying to do? Or you're sitting there going, well, let's roll this money back over into Fast and Furious 12. I mean, one minute
No.
you sit there and
What
tell
I'm
you
saying
it's all
is,
about the big money. I don't care about fucking Hidden Figures making 54 million. All right? I care about the ones that are propping up the studio. This is your argument. This is the ones that prop up. All right? The whole thing, the whole business thrives on Fast and Furious and Transformers and Star Wars, not Hidden Figures. So why am I going to sit there and be like, oh, I'm glad I made money on it, but what do you think? We're going to just open up a whole nother genre over here doing this? It's fool's gold.
that's not
It's
what I
fool's
said.
gold.
That's not what I said. What I said was they're going to look at people who were considered not box office openers as a category of people, female, middle-aged, black. And they're going to say, well, maybe we can cast this middle-aged female black actress as the female lead in our movie that stars Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool 15. Because we've done that with Hidden Figures. We put a black middle-aged actress in there and people accepted it. So we'll try to be a little bit more risky with this, hoping it'll pay off for us because we now know that people don't have some kind of mental block about having middle-aged black actresses in the lead roles. When before Hidden Figures, we would never have ever considered it because we thought that was a no-go for people's tastes. That's what I think. And you can disagree with me if you want. That's fine. That's how I see it.
The Help brought in $216 million.
Okay.
That was 2011.
Okay.
Viola Davis, Octavia Spencer were also
Right.
in that movie.
And all those actresses in that movie, before they were in that movie, who fucking heard of these people? And since then, everybody knows who Viola Davis is and who Octavia Spencer are. Why
Right,
is
but
that?
what I'm saying is the movie made $216 million starring them in it.
Right.
That was
And
supposed to
before
be so.
them,
So
and
now
before them,
the game changer now is the fact that they're in this movie for you right now when they
you
were
could say
already
that
all
you
big
could say the same for
blockbusters.
The Help. You could say the same for The Help. The Help was a game changer. Because again, before The Help, nobody knew who any of those people were. Since The Help, everybody knows who they are. That's a game changer kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I understand that, but you're acting like somehow Hidden Figures is the one that they're standing. This is the one that's kind of changing things for them now, when it's already been changed for them.
Okay. I don't
You're
I
sitting
don't
there, you're it's a you zigzag and you kind of see it however you want to see it, but you could sit there and go, Hidden Figures could come at the right place at the right time. The movie could have made just 10 cents just as easily, and nobody would have said anything boo about it. But the
because
fact
that's
that
what
it
they would have
made money to you,
expected.
now it's all of a sudden it's thing. It's high up on the
Yes,
list.
because whenever there's a success, all the
Uh,
ships rise. Because whenever there's money to be on the table, people are going to look at it and go, how can I make more money off of that thing on the table? That's how that works.
so there's going to be a Hidden Figures too.
It quite possibly could be, or the actresses in that movie are going to be getting,
Octavia Spencer is going to get her own leading role in the movie.
don't be surprised if it happens.
It's not. See, this is the type of
Okay.
crap where you sit there, and we're not going to end on a negative point where you get all hyped up on it because you're just shocked and surprised at something. I'm not gonna. This is my last comment because we're not going to make it through here because it's going to get your anger up and your blood boiling. But this is the John Boyega shit here you're talking about. He's going to be a star. He's going to be a hit after Star Wars. It's not going to happen.
Do you think
And
John Boyega was going to be the lead in Pacific Rim 2 without Star Wars?
oh no, it's going to be good for him
Okay.
getting a job. That's going to be him for a job. But in terms of all of a sudden now he's going to be lifting up other movies, that's not going to be the case. That was your argument. Your argument was that once John Boyega is in it, it's going to be like Will Smith and Brad Pitt. We're going to go see it. It's not going to happen.
That
He's going to
wasn't
do
the
work.
argument. That
He's
wasn't
going
the
to do
argument.
work. He's going to get work.
That wasn't the
That's no,
argument. The argument
that
that
was the
wasn't even the
argument.
argument. The argument was that John Boyega was going to open up the possibility for other movies to have lead black actors in them. That was the argument, and the argument then becomes legitimized when you think of things like mm, Black Panther,
Your
which
argument was he was going to be a star. That was your argument. We were talking about stars, not lifting other boats.
okay,
I agree with you about lifting other boats, but you said he was going to be a star.
and again, he would not have been the lead in Pacific Rim 2 if it wasn't for Star Wars.
Does that constitute a star now for you being the
Well,
lead of
he is a
Pacific Rim
star.
2?
I mean, I don't think there's anyone who has been to movies in the last 2 years who doesn't know the name John Boyega.
You know what I mean by that. I don't know why you're playing this game with me of yes, he's a Star Wars star. So Mark Hamill was a star. It's talking about having a career after it.
Well, I think that still remains to be seen. I think the fact that he's getting a major
Oh
role
no,
in
no,
between Star Wars movies is one
it'll be
indication.
no. It'll be remain to be seen. Well, hopefully we'll still be around, but it's not going to be what you think. It's not going to be some sort of Will Smith, fucking Tom Cruise shit for him. I don't know why it's not clear for you, but you want to sit there because he's been in your movie, your Star Wars movie. It's going to somehow change his trajectory. He's going to do work, but that work is not going to sit there and be like, oh my God, he's going to be the next Denzel. That was your argument.
Okay. I think we need to move on.
I can't. Number 2, La La Land,
Okay.
14.5 for this week. It's chugging along. Cost 30 million. It's up to 74 million. I guess
Not
we'll
a
get more
favorite.
La La Lands then.
Um,
All right.
not a favorite.
What's that?
I didn't love it.
Yeah. It's Best Picture nominee. A lot of kudos. A lot of people love it. It's all
Yeah.
about old Hollywood. What's not to love?
The
Number
movie
three,
itself for me, but okay.
Sing, 13 million. So Sing has cost with a budget of 75 million is up to 233 million over 4 weeks.
That's a lot of
I
money.
guess we'll be getting. I guess we'll be getting Sing 2.
I would bank on that.
Number 4, Rogue One, another 13 million from the domestic box office.
Oddly enough, and I can't figure this out exactly what's happening with Rogue One and China, but apparently Chinese people aren't having it because it's not doing very well in China. And I guess, which I didn't realize at the time, The Force Awakens didn't do as well as they thought it would either. But Rogue One is really not doing well. Like I think they said the second week in China, Rogue One dropped 71%, which is a lot. Um, so although the rest of the world is in love with the Disney version of Star Wars, apparently Chinese people are not having it. I don't know what that's all about. So that's something to keep my eye on, I think.
Is that when the rest of the world was in love with Warcraft and they don't know what's the problem with the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean it's sort of similar to that. I mean, although China is I think now the second largest market in the world, so it becomes that much more important.
Sure.
I think the fact that they also had two of the most popular Chinese stars in the Rogue One movie in order to court the Chinese audience, and they still rejected the movie on some level, is curious. Um,
Because once again, the assumption is if we put in some sort of Asian character for them, that means that it's more likely for them to go see the movie because
well, I think if they see themselves reflected in the film in some way, it's better than them not being reflected in the film at all. Which is
yes,
why,
because they're
again,
not
we
going to see
have
the movies. They're not going to see Warcraft unless they're in the film, which they weren't. So that's kind of the logic. Once again, is you only go to the movies if you're reflected in the movies?
I think it doesn't hurt. If I saw gay people in a movie, it wouldn't keep me away from it. If it was, you know, a gay character in Star Wars, for example,
You still
wouldn't make
haven't
me
seen
less likely to see Star Wars.
you still haven't seen Brokeback.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Okay,
Um,
that's my point. It doesn't mean anything
but
if you
that's
don't want
more
to go
of a
see the
me issue
movie.
and not of a gay issue. And the fact that they put a Chinese actress in the lead for episode 8, I think is also, an attempt for them obviously to reach the Asian market, but it's not working. And so I don't really get what do they have against Rogue One is what I guess I can't figure out.
Hmm. Maybe it's not getting good reviews over there. Is that a possibility?
It's possible, but all the other reviews in the United States, as far as I know, were good. So, I mean, what is it about the Russian culture that is rejecting that movie? I just don't understand it. I mean, it's the highest grossing movie. It's overgrossed Civil War, and now it has become the highest grossing movie of 2016, even though it didn't come out till December 16th. So, what is it? I mean, I'd like to read a think piece about why it's not working in China.
I got
And
you.
I'm sure Disney would like to figure that out too.
Okay. Does it hurt you? Does it bother you that it's not working in China?
It's more of a curiosity for me than anything else. I'm curious.
Okay.
Doesn't hurt
Okay.
me, but I'm curious as to why that place, when everybody else seems to have embraced it, what is it about the movie that China just doesn't want to have?
You're a very confusing person at times. Very
Okay.
confusing to me. It's
Maybe
that's
you shouldn't be trying to figure me out and just go with what
I'm
it
not
is.
figuring it out, but it's just confusing in the sense that like it's a love fest for you sometimes. When you're down with it, you want the lemmings and the people, the sheep, to follow it. And so, since you're down for it and you obviously love it, you want how come all the other sheep aren't following? So, it's curious that you want the sheep on board, but when the sheep aren't on board, you're questioning it, but usually you don't concern yourself with the sheep. So
I'm concerned only in the
the money
manner
is made a
that
sufficient amount of money that you've guaranteed that you're going to get more of it. But hmm, this is the same argument if they all sat there and said the movie sucked. Would you be trying to wonder why they said the movie sucked?
I'm curious as to why this particular movie or this particular franchise, when they seem to embrace so much of our other stuff that even isn't popular here, like for example Warcraft, what is it about this movie that people don't like, that Chinese people don't like? That's what I can't figure out.
Okay, all right. Number 5, The Bye Bye Man. And when you find that article, please send it to me.
Sure.
The Bye Bye Man with 13 million in its first week. It's the opening week. Cost 7 million to make.
Well, maybe there'll be a Bye Bye Man too.
Rounding out 6 through 10 quickly. Patriots Day. Oh, that's interesting.
The other 4?
Patriots Day made $12 million.
Okay.
Cost 45 million to make. It's the number 6 movie.
Was it released widely or was it released in just a small
It's
amount of
released in
theaters?
over 2,000 theaters.
Oh, ooh, well, guess it won't be making more than that then.
This is his 4th week out, Bill.
Okay. Well, how much has it made altogether?
12 million.
Altogether?
14 million.
Ouch.
14 million. Mark Wahlberg. Boston. Patriots Day. Over 4 weeks. 14 million.
That's not a lot of money.
Does that mean Mark Wahlberg won't be? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. Patriots Day?
I mean, what are you trying to get at with saying this? You thought it should make more or less? What?
I guess my point is when I'm looking at there's monster trucks, Sleepless, Live by Night. Why
I think the
him?
big story that's sort of shocking to me this week.
I guess my point of the matter is when I see these movies and when they're coming out, if you're going to tell me, like we've talked about before, in terms of having a brand franchise, your Harry Potters, or your Star Wars, or Fast and Furious right now, or something else that seems to have some sort of brand recognition, that seems to me to be like one of those things like, well, there's a good chance that you're going to make a lot of money. Even 50 Shades, because it's got the book thing. People know it. It's very popular, and they're making a movie of it. So you seem to be kind of hedging your bets that you have the chance to pull in a ton of money. Now, outside of that in the cinema world, when you're making all these other movies that cost under $50 million, $20 million, you're almost kind of sitting to yourself saying, I don't know. You're already in that category because you're not investing hundreds of millions of dollars. You're in the category of going, we're trying to catch lightning in a bottle. This is not a brand franchise. It's not something anybody in particularly cares about. Fucking Live by Night by Ben Affleck. Okay, it's a gangster movie. I like a gangster movie. These movies will all be very popular at the Redbox and on DVD. I'm sure of it. They all look like something I would want to watch on a Friday night. But once again, you're talking the movie-going crowd. So you're making the movie for 40 million. You're telling me right now you don't know. You don't know. And if it becomes a hit, then you sit there and go, fuck, that worked out. You rolled the dice And whatever it is, it's the month of February. People felt like going to see your movie for whatever the fuck the reason was. And you somehow hit the lightning in the bottle. But if you don't, you sit there and go, we only put 20 to 30 million dollars into the movie and it didn't work out. Okay? That's the whole it seems to be the whole pattern. Manchester by the Sea, I mean, I'll go with your logic and go the people aren't trying to make a bad movie. But you can't tell me to sit there and go, if the movie doesn't make $100 million, you're going to come to me and go in a business meeting and go, Manchester by the Sea didn't make $100 million. I don't know where we get wrong. It's almost as if you're not paying attention to the last like 5 years of movie cinema here. What seems to be popular nowadays, and where we have access to so much stuff. It doesn't seem to be a shock. The shock is when it becomes a hit. You're like, fuck, we got lucky. But I mean, when Justice League comes out, you're talking about whether the movie is going to be making $1 billion or over $900 million. That's what you're talking about. You're not sitting there talking about some sort of 50 million or 80 million weekend. The movie's expected to make big fucking money. All right? Nobody's talking about Manchester by the Sea, Live by the Night, fucking Hidden Figure offenses making $100 million fucking dollars. It's not. It's not even close to being on the radar. That's why the movies are made for 20 million damn dollars. If they hit, that's great. But if they don't, they move the fuck on. That's where the shock comes in from anymore with those lesser tier movies.
The shock for me this week is Live by Night being number 11, which, I'm pretty sure Warner Brothers thought it was going to be better than that, or make more money than that. I'm sure Ben Affleck was hoping that it would make more money than that. And for it to be so far down on the list does not shore up Warner Brothers studio as a studio's confidence in Ben Affleck's directing ability going forward with the Batman. And maybe this has something to do with, why it is that he's, the other thing about Ben Affleck and this Batman thing is it's kind of getting on my nerves.
Do you think that? I'm sorry. Do you think? I want to hear what you have to say. Remember what you have to say. Do you think that somehow that Ben Affleck did Live by Night, and it's made $5 fucking million, $10 million total over only so many weeks here? Do you think that somehow when Batman comes out and it makes like $500 to $600 million, do you not see what's going on here? Do you not? I mean, is the pattern not like?
What I see is that the studio is going to lose faith in Ben Affleck's ability to handle acting and directing a large tentpole picture. They're going to lose faith in the fact that he has his shit on lock and that he knows what he's doing and that they can just let him go and have free reign with their $200 million. And they're going to sit back in a studio meeting and go, well, did you see what happened with Live by Night? We kept our hands off of that and it was a disaster. So are we going to really hand him another $200 million in which we're not sure that we're going to see as much of an investment or return on our money as we think we should? Because this man clearly has maybe some issues handling, directing, or producing, or writing, or starring all at the same time issues. I mean, yeah, it's going to create some kind of unsureness in the minds of the people who are going to give him that check to make that movie and not have anything to interfere with it for. So,
I find that thinking, it's still like the whole thinking of, it's old thinking, to be quite honest, in my opinion. I think it's old thinking. It's archaic thinking anymore. It's once again that somehow because I put so-and-so, sure, you can use your word that it enhances or helps, but just because I put some sort of popular actor in the movie, that somehow it's going to make $100 million. It's archaic thinking anymore. It's clear that anymore that these things are driven by what's the brand, superheroes, or what's it connected to. It's like the ship has left the boat. I mean, Ben Affleck just did Batman versus Superman here. It made $900 million. Now he's directed his own film called Live by Night, which nobody fucking knows. Never heard of it, whatever else. He's just kind of wrote it. It's some gangster shit. And somehow it makes $10 million. You're sitting there going in the studio telling me, going like, well, I don't know if Ben Affleck really has it. It's not like somehow Ben Affleck is directing just as fucking. I mean, if somehow he takes something that's supposed to make fucking $500 million, I mean, make $800 million, and it only makes $10 million, then certainly that will affect his brand going forward directing anything else. But if you're telling me taking some sort of piece that seems to be some opus that I wrote and directed, and it only pulls in so many money that's not based on anything, just a story that I read, Live by Night. Okay, you can't sit there and go, well, I didn't expect it to make 10 million, but you're telling me you're expecting it to make 500 million. The movies that are making that money seem to be having capes are based on other books. You're really going to hold that against Ben Affleck, some other shit? I mean, the reason why he got the movie was because he probably did BVS and go like, here, we'll give you some cheddar to make something else. But he's not
You're
making
only
Batman.
in the city of Hollywood. You are only as valuable as your last hit or failure. Ask
See,
M. Night Shyamalan.
yeah, we're
Um,
talking about this, and as you have Robert Downey Jr. making the Avengers, and then pulling in $1 billion, and then going out and making some other side movie that pulls in $50 million, and then going back into the Avengers making $500 million. I mean,
Robert Downey Jr. is an actor. He stars in a movie. He doesn't direct or write or produce. He only stars. Ben Affleck is got
if
the
Robert
reins.
Downey Jr. had even directed or acted, it wouldn't have made a difference, is my point. It doesn't make a difference. Nobody wants to see this other type of personal crap at the
It
theater.
does
That's my
make a
point.
difference if the studio's going to be the people who are holding the fucking purse strings, and they're going to say, we have confidence that anything that you have your fingers in artistically is going to be a success. Then they're not going to hand you another $200 million if the last $20 million they gave you,
Are-
you
wait,
lost
wait.
15 of it.
Are you telling me the? Well, wait. Are you telling me Live by Night costs $200 million?
No, I'm telling you, if I gave you $20 million and you give me $5 million back, am I going to hand you another $200 million?
Happens all the time in Hollywood.
No, it doesn't. They don't do it specifically on purpose. They don't throw good money after bad on purpose. They're all out there trying to make money. And they do the best that they can with the judgment that they have as far as, like, a company or whatever. But ask M. Night Shyamalan. M. Night Shyamalan doesn't get to make M. Night Shyamalan level movies anymore because now he's stuck in the Blumhouse ghetto until he can work his way back up. Because Disney was tired of throwing M. Night Shyamalan $100 million and he was giving them back 20. So now he gets banished to the Blumhouse version where he has to make $5 million movies. And of course he can make a return investment on $5 million.
The Blumhouse version now for general movies, tier 3 movies, is 20 million to 50 million. That's what it is. That's where we're at with it. Those are the budget movies of sitting there going, we're not expecting much out of you, but if you hit, that's great. I don't know if I can really hold it against somebody for making Hidden Figures for 25 million and they somehow come back with less. It wasn't expected to come back with more. If you did, that's great. I don't know if I really have to sit there and look at you and be like, well, you did a movie with 3 middle-aged black women, and how much did you make? We made 10 million. Well, you know what? You don't have a job here anymore because you should have brought back more money. And you're going, it's called Hidden Figures, about 3 middle-aged black women. What you expect? I mean, honestly, what I expect from Justice League is to make $1 billion. Do you really expect 100 million out of Hidden Figures?
What I can
If I give
tell
you 20
you
million?
is that if you can't make $20 million make money for me, why am I going to hand you $200 million and expect you to make money for me? That's
Because it's
what I'm
called
trying to tell you.
Batman. Because it's called Batman. That trumps all. The brand trumps all. Transformers, Fast and Furious, they all trump all.
It does not. Batman versus Superman trumped all as far as money, but that's not the only thing that they care about, obviously, or we would have gotten better or less concern over what was going on in the future of the DCEU. They're concerned with what they left on the table, which was critical praise. So it, in combination with the money, they're looking at critical praise, and because they didn't get it, they're changing the DCEU.
I
It's
think
the
you would
same.
I think you would have to do an apples to apples comparison. If you're talking movies over $100 million, blockbusters, and you're telling me that Ben Affleck is not getting it done within, then yes. I mean, when you're asking Zack Snyder to deal with Batman versus Superman and direct Justice League movies, that's what he's being compared to if the movie's not making it. If Zack Snyder goes off in between Justice League and Batman versus Superman and decides to direct a movie called The Sunflower and the Moon for 20 million, and you sit there and you tell me that movie only pulls in 7, that doesn't mean fucking squat diddly to me, because nobody gives a shit about the sun and the moon. They only care about Justice League. So that's not going to affect that brand whatsoever. I don't care if Zack Snyder goes out and directs 7 other things that fail $0. We only care about Justice League, the movie. We're all going to go see it. We all want to know about it. We don't care about his little pet projects on the side. Ben Affleck could direct a million other things, star in Geely 2 for all we care about. But he better be there for Batman the movie, which is going to make buku money. It's not a shock or a surprise. It's the expectation.
Okay.
I don't know why that seems to be. We all have these. You have the Russo brothers directing stuff on the side. You think that's going to affect the Avengers if that movie makes squat diddly money, whatever they're doing on the side? Nobody cares. It's about the brand. About the brand. Now, when the Russo brothers fail on the Avengers, then we have huge problems and shit changes. When you fail on the things that are supposed to be a hit, like Amazing Spider-Man 2, when the money doesn't come in like they want it to, that's when all of a sudden you don't get Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm sure if, what's his name, Mark Webb directed something in between Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, and it made 10 cents, nobody cared about it because it wasn't called Spider-Man. I don't know why. You're not running out to see Manchester in the Sea, Room, Sleepless, Fences, Hidden Figures. You're not running out, but what you are running out to see is Wonder Woman, Thor, Ragnarok, Star Wars. That's what you are running out to see. But somehow you act like everybody else is exempt from that too. Like we're all running out to see those movies too, and we're not. We're all going to see the blockbusters. That's what we seem to care about nowadays. If we want to watch Fences, we'll watch it at our home on Netflix when it comes out. So when Ben Affleck does some shit that seems like it's made for Netflix or fucking the Indie Film Festival and it makes 10 cents, I don't know what that means hell to high water about Batman, because we're still going to go see it. The world has changed so much, and to still act like somehow that a star can carry a whole movie is just, it's old thinking. It's old thinking. It's moved on. The world is moving. We're moving past that. Netflix, Hulu, Twitter has changed it all. It's blockbuster city. If you happen to make money and pull in from on a $20 million budget, kudos. Kudos to M. Night Shyamalan for making a movie for $5 million and pulling in $80 million. That's great. If you do it, that's wonderful. We're not losing money. But you've told me this 1,000,000 times and before. What's really holding up Hollywood is the big blockbuster tentpole movies. And if you're not making the blockbuster tentpole movies, then all this other shit is fucking nonsense. You've mentioned that to me before on the show. I don't know why it's different now.
Are we ready to move on?
Yeah. Okay. Now you have me sounding like. Are you saying I sound like that now?
I'm not saying you sound like anything. You speak for yourself.
I don't know why we have to get our blood pressure up on this.
Listen, you don't see my point of view. I can't make you understand it. I've tried to explain it 3 different ways in this particular show alone. So I'm not going to continue to try to make you see my point of view. You see your point of view. I see mine. Let's move on.
I guess
That's where I'm at.
Disagree.
Yes.
So we just really throw out all type of time issues, huh? Is that where we're at nowadays?
It looks like it.
We just don't give a fuck.
I guess this is where it's at.
You know what? You've
We are what
exhausted.
we are.
You've exhausted. I may have to go have a drink after this.
Okay, you do that.
Oh, I hope you feel better. I'm not
Thank
even
you.
I'm not even going to plug our number. I'm not even going to plug Twitter. I'm not going to plug it because nobody's going to get this far. Nobody's going to get this far.
I hope they do.
Why? To see how unreasonable you are?
All right, are we done for today?
We're done. You've been a bit of a trooper. So go
All
handle
right.
your business.
All right.
What do you think I should call it?
Train wrecks are us.
I think it should probably be related to something with time, since we've seemed to put so much time into it.
Yes, if you don't have a lot of it, this isn't the show to listen to.
Okay. All right. I'll come up with something witty.
All right.
You've listened to the Popular Cinema Podcast. I'm your current and modern host, Payne, and my fossil friend.
Bill, signing off.
2 weeks.
Bye.
Peace out.